What if I told you that our galaxy is not standing still, not quietly spinning in its familiar spiral, but being dragged, pulled relentlessly across the universe by a force so immense that we cannot see it, cannot name it, cannot escape it? Imagine for a moment the Milky Way as a ship, billions of stars forming its deck, our sun just a lantern swaying in the dark, and all of us, every life that has ever existed, nothing more than passengers. Now, imagine that ship caught in a tide we cannot chart, heading toward a destination no one has ever witnessed. A destination hidden behind curtains of dust, behind veils of silence. We are moving. We are being taken. Astronomers call it the Great Attractor, but the name is more confession than explanation. It is not a single object we can point to, like a star or a black hole. It is a gravitational mystery, a region of such overwhelming mass that entire galaxies bend their trajectories toward it. The Milky Way, Andromeda, countless others. All of them are converging, like leaves scattered across the surface of a dark river, drawn into a current that flows without end. And yet, when we look for it with our telescopes, there is nothing obvious staring back at us. The stars do not reveal it. The light betrays nothing. It hides in the one place where our gaze cannot easily go. We are moving. This is not a theory, not speculation, but fact. Our galaxy is racing at over 600 kilometers every second, not merely drifting with the expansion of the cosmos, but surging in a particular direction, as though someone or something is pulling at us. We do not feel it in our daily lives. We see no stars streaking by, and yet the evidence is written across the sky. Distant galaxies are stretched in redshift. The cosmic microwave background itself shows the fingerprint of our motion. We are not at rest. We are never at rest. Even the universe's oldest light confirms the journey. Why does this matter? Because it confronts us with something humanity rarely contemplates. We are not masters of our path. We are not the captains of this ship called the Milky Way. We are cargo, carried by invisible currents, compelled into journeys that dwarf imagination. Every star you have ever seen in the night sky, every nebula, every planet orbiting every sun, together they are all moving towards something that does not wish to be seen. And the question presses upon us like the weight of a dream we cannot wake from. What lies ahead? To understand the terror and beauty of this revelation, we must return to the methods by which astronomers uncovered it. They began with maps. They counted galaxies, traced their positions, measured their velocities, and they found that galaxies are not scattered at random, but fall into patterns, clusters, filaments, walls, vast superstructures, binding the universe together in a cosmic web. And within that web, they noticed distortions. Galaxies were not merely flowing outward with cosmic expansion. They were being pulled sideways, drawn toward a hidden basin of gravity. It was as if space itself was tilted, sloping downward into an invisible valley. It is here that human imagination collides with its limits. For centuries we told ourselves the universe was stable, that stars circled peacefully above. Then we learned it was expanding, rushing outward in all directions. And now, even within that expansion, we discover hidden gravities, secret flows, invisible valleys and summits that dictate the paths of galaxies. What kind of universe is this? Where even our cosmic map conceals more than it reveals, where the forces shaping our destiny are buried behind curtains we cannot pierce. When you gaze into the night sky, you are not looking at a still picture. You are gazing into a storm of movement. Every star you see is in orbit, every galaxy is in motion, and our own Milky Way is sliding across space towards something we cannot picture. The darkness between constellations is not empty. It is the backdrop of a journey we did not choose. Imagine sitting on a train with no windows, no ability to steer, no map of the tracks. You feel the vibration beneath your feet. You hear the hum of the engine, but you cannot see where you are going. That is us. That is the Milky Way. And what does that do to the human mind? To know that all our myths of stability, of Earth as center, of sun as anchor, of galaxy as home, are illusions? The reality is far darker, far more profound. We are nomads of the cosmos, carried along in a migration written by gravity itself. And the thing that calls us, that pulls us, is hidden, invisible. Perhaps it is a gathering of galaxies, a colossal supercluster beyond our sight. Perhaps it is a mass of dark matter, unseen scaffolding shaping the visible universe. Or perhaps it is something stranger, something no human word can yet describe. Whatever it is, it waits. This is where science and philosophy blur. To be told that our galaxy is moving towards something unseen is not just a scientific fact, it is an existential mirror. It reminds us that we too are carried by invisible forces. The choices we make are shaped by histories we did not write, by laws we did not create, by desires we did not choose. Just as the Milky Way cannot resist the pull of the Great Attractor, perhaps we too are drawn, all our lives, toward centers we cannot name, toward ends we cannot see. And still, there is awe, for in that hidden region lies the possibility of revelation. The Great Attractor may conceal truths about dark matter, about the largest structures of the cosmos, about the architecture of reality itself. It is a reminder that the universe is not yet tamed by our instruments, not yet fully domesticated by human reason. There remain shadows in the sky where certainty cannot go, and it is into those shadows that our galaxy is plunging. So when you step outside at night and see the band of the Milky Way arcing overhead, know this: that river of stars is not frozen. It is flowing into the unknown. The Andromeda Galaxy, though destined to collide with ours billions of years from now, is itself being swept along in the same direction, as if even our future wars of stars are already scripted into the larger choreography of gravity. We are passengers on a convoy of galaxies, all pulled by a summons older than life, older than light. And perhaps that is the true terror, not the speed of our motion, not the invisibility of the force, but the inevitability of it. For it means that even on the grandest scales, fate is real. Destiny is not just a human invention, but a law written into the structure of space-time. We can chart our course across oceans, across continents, even across planets, but across galaxies, we are helpless. We are being carried, and the universe is silent about where. What if the Great Attractor is not merely a place, but a metaphor for the human condition? A reminder that what we cannot see shapes us most. We live in the visible world, but our lives are guided by the invisible, by memory, by fear, by longing, by time itself. Just as galaxies bend toward the hidden mass, we bend toward hidden truths. And just as astronomers peer through dust and darkness to glimpse the shape of the attractor, so we spend our lives searching through uncertainty for something we can never fully know. Our galaxy is moving. You are moving. Right now, as you hear this, the sun, the earth, every atom in your body is rushing through space toward that hidden gravitational abyss. And the only question is, what waits for us there? Is it destruction, collision, dissolution into a sea of galaxies? Or is it something stranger, something more profound, an unveiling, a revelation, the next chapter in the story of existence? We do not know. Perhaps we cannot know. But still, the pull continues, and with each passing moment, we draw closer. But let us not rush too quickly past the strangeness of this discovery. To say the Milky Way is moving is not to say we feel ourselves sliding through space. The motions are so vast, so distributed across billions of stars, that they are imperceptible to us. Our senses were never built for this scale. A fish does not notice the current of the river until it crashes into a rock. A bird does not feel the spin of the earth beneath its wings. And we, bound by human lifespans and fragile bodies, cannot feel the tide beneath us. The tide of galaxies flowing toward an abyss. The discovery itself was born of painstaking patience. Astronomers noticed that galaxies were not just receding with cosmic expansion. Some were veering, their motions skewed, their velocities betraying an invisible influence. It was as if the universe itself bore a scar, a dent in the fabric of space-time, tugging at everything nearby. But where? And why? With radio telescopes, they mapped hydrogen lines. With infrared, they pierced through dust. With X-ray observatories, they glimpsed hot gas glowing in the dark. Every tool revealed hints, but never the whole. Still, the picture remained incomplete. Behind the Milky Way's bulging disk of stars lies a curtain of obscuration called the zone of avoidance. And the Great Attractor sits right behind that curtain, almost mocking us, almost as if deliberately hidden. This is not just an obstacle of physics, but of metaphor. For what greater symbol could there be than this? the force guiding our future concealed precisely behind the one place we cannot easily see. A reminder that truth often hides not in the clear skies, but in the blind spots. Consider, too, the scale of what we are discussing. Our galaxy alone holds hundreds of billions of stars. It stretches 100,000 light years across. And yet, all of that, every star, every planet, every black hole in its heart, is being dragged like a leaf in a storm. And not just our galaxy, but thousands more. Clusters of galaxies, superclusters, entire walls of structure in the cosmic web, all tilting and all leaning toward that invisible gravity. The comparison to rivers is not poetic exaggeration. The universe itself is a watershed, and we are its tributaries. And if galaxies are rivers, then what does that make us? Drops of water, carried along by currents we cannot resist. Each of us, in our own lives, believes we are steering, choosing, moving freely. Yet, on the scale of the cosmos, freedom collapses. We are as bound as stars, as helpless as dust, as inevitable as falling. The Great Attractor is not just a location. It is a lesson carved into the universe itself. That to live is to be drawn, to move towards something we do not understand, to flow with a current we did not choose. In ancient times, people looked at the night sky and imagined gods pulling stars across the heavens, chariots of fire, celestial hunts, divine hunters and prey. We have abandoned those myths, yet what we find in their place is no less mythic. For what is the Great Attractor if not a god by another name? A force unseen, irresistible, commanding even galaxies to obey. We give it a scientific title, but the awe it inspires is the same awe our ancestors felt when they saw comets blaze or eclipses darken the sun. We are not less mythic now. We are simply mythic in a different language. And so, we stand in a moment of double vision. One eye sees data, velocities, cosmic microwave background dipoles. The other eye sees destiny, fate, inevitability. Together they merge into something larger, a realization that science itself does not rob the universe of mystery, but reveals deeper mysteries still. For every answer carved by mathematics, a darker question emerges, as if the universe is an infinite well of uncertainty, and we have only lowered the bucket a few inches. Think of the time scale of this motion. Millions of years from now, the Milky Way will not be where it is today. The constellations we know will be stretched into unrecognizable shapes. Our descendants, if they still exist, will look up at skies unthinkably different, and yet the destination will remain the same, the hidden pull of the Great Attractor. Even civilizations may rise and fall, species may bloom and vanish, and still the galaxy will glide forward, silent, tireless, unrelenting. What does it mean to live, knowing that even galaxies are mortal travelers? Perhaps the Great Attractor is not a single thing at all. Perhaps it is a convergence of influences, a knot in the cosmic web, a basin where rivers of galaxies meet. Perhaps behind it lies something even larger, like the Shapley supercluster, even denser, even more irresistible. In that case, the Great Attractor is merely the shadow of a deeper hunger, a whisper of an even greater abyss. What if the universe itself is layered in such pulls, each horizon hiding another, each attractor merely the signpost for something greater beyond? And still, we search, because to ignore it would be impossible. The pull is written into the very background of the cosmos. The dipole anisotropy of the cosmic microwave background, a faint temperature variation across the sky, is nothing less than the echo of our motion, the whisper of the attractor itself, carved into radiation, left over from the Big Bang. It is as if the first light of the universe still remembers where we are going, still points the way like a compass of fire and silence. How haunting that even the dawn of time tells us we are moving towards something beyond sight. Every time a telescope turns toward that hidden zone, every time a survey catalogs another galaxy veering, we are reminded we are not at rest. And perhaps that is the deepest shock. For so much of human culture is built upon the illusion of rest. We build homes. We anchor ourselves in nations. We carve permanence into stone. But none of it is permanent. Not even the ground beneath our feet. For beneath it all lies motion, endless, invisible, unstoppable motion. The Milky Way is proof, carved in stars and dust, that everything moves towards something unseen. So here we stand, fragile creatures on a pale world, peering into the darkness, asking questions older than language. Where are we going? What waits in the hidden depths? Is the Great Attractor just a structure of matter, or is it something stranger? A crack in the fabric of our understanding, a doorway into truths we are not yet ready to face. These are not questions science can dismiss, for they are written into the data itself. And they are not questions philosophy can avoid, for they are written into our existence. We are moving, we cannot turn back. And as the first segment of this journey closes, let us not cling to answers but to wonder. Let us allow the weight of the mystery to settle on us like starlight. We are moving, we are carried, we are bound, and the universe remains silent about where. That silence is not emptiness, it is an invitation. An invitation to follow, to question, to imagine, to recognize that even as galaxies fall toward hidden mass, we too are drawn toward unknown futures. And the only way forward is through the darkness itself. Imagine that you are standing on a shore, watching waves crash against the rocks. At first it seems random, chaotic, without direction. But after a while you begin to notice something deeper, a rhythm, a current beneath the surface. The same is true for the universe. For centuries we believed galaxies moved randomly, expanding outward evenly as if scattered marbles on an infinite table. But hidden in the data was a secret tide, a current flowing through the cosmos, and our galaxy is caught in it. Astronomers began to suspect this strange pull not from what they saw directly, but from what was absent. Galaxies were not where they should have been, not moving at the velocities expected from expansion alone. Some were speeding, some lagging, as if an invisible hand was tugging at them. To chart this, scientists began an enormous task, mapping the sky. They cataloged thousands, then millions of galaxies. Each one was a marker, a buoy floating on an ocean of space, its redshift a measure of how fast it was receding. Piece by piece, the ocean revealed its hidden currents. The patterns revealed something astonishing. Our local group of galaxies, the Milky Way, Andromeda, and dozens of smaller companions, was not adrift in still water. It was part of a stream, flowing with hundreds of other groups, like fish carried together in a hidden river. The flow was coordinated, not chaotic. Galaxies separated by unimaginable distances were moving in parallel, responding to a force beyond our line of sight. It was as though the universe itself had valleys and ridges, gravitational landscapes invisible to the eye, yet as real as mountains and oceans. To measure these motions, astronomers relied on a principle both simple and profound. Light stretches as objects move away. The greater the redshift, the faster the recession. But when they compared predicted redshifts with actual measurements, the discrepancies were undeniable. Our Milky Way was not merely drifting outward with cosmic expansion. It was surging in a specific direction. Not slowly, but at over 2 million kilometers per hour. The entire galaxy, every star, every planet, every atom, was bound to this trajectory. This revelation is difficult to comprehend, because we are trapped in scale. A car driving 100 kilometers per hour is fast enough to feel in your bones. A plane at 900 kilometers per hour makes you sense the speed only when you look out the window. But 2 million kilometers per hour? That is beyond imagination. And yet we do not feel it. Not because it is untrue, but because we are bound to the same motion as everything around us. It is not relative speed we feel, but difference. And in this tide, there is no difference. We, the stars, the gas, the planets, we are all moving together, too seamlessly to notice. So, the question became, what is the source of this tide? What kind of gravity could reach across such distances, dragging clusters and superclusters alike? Astronomers gave the mystery a provisional name, the Great Attractor. But to name a thing is not to understand it. It was a placeholder for ignorance, a symbol for a hidden force. And so, they pressed further, probing deeper into the curtain of dust and stars that obscured the region of sky where the attractor was thought to lie. What they found was both enlightening and terrifying. The pull was not localized to a small region, not the work of a single galaxy or even a simple cluster. It was spread out, diffuse, woven into the fabric of a larger structure. The Milky Way was not being drawn toward a single mass, but toward a convergence, a gravitational basin pulling countless galaxies into its depths. Our local group was just one of many tributaries. Together we were plunging into a current, and the river had no mouth visible to us. This discovery led to the mapping of what would later be called the Laniakea supercluster. Imagine a continent of galaxies, bound not by geography, but by gravity. A landmass of stars stretched across 500 million light-years, each galaxy a city, each filament a highway of matter. At its heart was a gravitational basin, the source of the flow, and we were part of it. Our home was no isolated island, but a peninsula on this cosmic continent, tied by invisible currents to galaxies hundreds of millions of light-years away. The metaphor of rivers became unavoidable. Astronomers traced the paths of galaxies and saw them falling, curving, bending toward unseen depths. Some paths ran parallel, some twisted, some diverged, but all of them converged eventually into larger flows. The comparison to water is no accident. Gravity, like water, seeks low places. It carves valleys in the landscape of space-time, and galaxies, like drops of rain, run downhill. The Great Attractor is not a dam waiting ahead, but the valley itself, the sink toward which all rivers flow. This reshaped not only astronomy, but our sense of place. For if the Milky Way is a drop of water in a river, then what does that make us? The humans who live on a small planet tucked into one corner of a spiral arm. What does it mean to know that our fate is written into a current we cannot resist? That everything we build, every story we tell, every civilization that rises and falls, are all carried downstream by an unseen flow? The question gnaws at us. We are not simply wanderers. We are passengers in an eternal drift. And here, the philosophical mirror returns. For what is the difference between a galaxy and a human life? Both are flows. Both are shaped by invisible currents. A person is pulled by forces they do not see, by culture, by history, by desire, by time. And a galaxy is pulled by gravity, dark matter, structures too vast to comprehend. Both live in currents. Both are drawn by what is unseen, and both mistake their motion for choice until the truth is revealed. Consider again the methods of discovery. To measure such currents requires immense patience. Galaxies billions of light-years away are faint, barely visible. Yet each one is a signpost, each one a clue. Like sailors navigating by stars, astronomers plotted their positions, compared their velocities, traced their lines of motion. The deeper they mapped, the clearer the river became, and the more terrifying the realization, our entire cosmic neighborhood, everything we can see, is heading in the same direction. Not by chance, not by coincidence, but by law. The Great Attractor was not merely a scientific puzzle, it was an existential wound. For it proved that even in the grandest scales, we are not free. The universe is not a flat sea of expansion, but a landscape tilted by gravity, shaped into basins and walls, and we live in one of those basins, sliding toward its depths. The sight of it should fill us with awe, but also with unease, because it means we are not where we thought we were, and we are not going where we thought we were going. But there was more. As scientists pushed deeper, they realized that the Great Attractor itself might only be a shadow, that behind it, further still, lies the Shapley supercluster, even denser, even more massive, perhaps the true engine of our motion. If that is true, then the current we are in is not shallow, not local, but vast, stretching across hundreds of millions of light-years. We are not just being pulled, we are being carried into a whirlpool whose bottom we cannot see. This realization is both humbling and terrifying, because it tells us the universe is not a calm sea, but a storm, not a map of stillness, but a map of currents. And in those currents, we are nothing more than passengers. The Milky Way is not drifting aimlessly. It is flowing, like a branch tossed into a river. And the river is carrying us, whether we will it or not, into depths unknown. Perhaps what unsettles us most is not that we are moving, but that we cannot see the path ahead. Imagine walking through a forest at night, guided only by the sound of rushing water in the distance. You know a river lies ahead. You can hear it, feel its cool breath, sense its inevitability. But the trees block your view, and the darkness hides the bank. You walk toward it, not by sight, but by the certainty of its presence. That is humanity in the universe. We know the river exists. We know it carries us. But we cannot yet see its end. The zone of avoidance is not merely an obstruction of dust and starlight. It is a metaphor carved into the sky. The one region of heaven we cannot clearly see happens also to be the region where our destiny lies. Is that coincidence, or is the universe reminding us of the limits of vision? For every curtain we pull back, another remains. And beyond each curtain lies a greater truth, waiting, patient, inexorable. The Great Attractor hides behind such a curtain, daring us to look, knowing that when we finally do, our understanding of reality itself will have to change. And think of this. In our search for the attractor, we are also mapping ourselves. Each galaxy's motion, each skew in its trajectory, is not just a sign of gravity, but a mirror of our own motion. The universe writes our story not in ink, but in velocities, in vectors, in flows. We are the subject of this map, not the cartographers outside it. The lines on the page are us, written by forces we did not choose, in languages we are only beginning to understand. This should make us question what it means to know it all. If every discovery deepens the mystery, then knowledge is not a fortress, but a labyrinth. To find the Great Attractor is not to escape confusion, but to enter deeper chambers of it. And perhaps that is the true journey. Not to end uncertainty, but to live within it, to be shaped by it, to let it change us as surely as gravity changes galaxies. And so, tracing the cosmic current is not only a scientific act, but a spiritual one. It is the recognition that we are part of something vast, flowing, alive. It is surrender and wonder in the same breath. It is terror, yes, but also beauty. For what greater privilege is there than to live in a universe that refuses to be small, to know that even our galaxy is caught in something beyond itself, drawn forward into mystery. In the end, we stand at the edge of vision, looking into the darkness of the zone of avoidance. We cannot yet see the Great Attractor clearly, but we know it is there because we feel its pull in the very structure of the cosmos. Our journey has begun, and the current is carrying us faster than we can imagine. And as we continue, one question looms larger than all others. If the universe itself carries us toward the unknown, what kind of unknown must it be to summon galaxies across millions of light years into its arms? There comes a moment when a mystery is given a name, not because it has been solved, but because it demands one. In the late 20th century, astronomers looked into their charts of motion, their catalogs of galaxies, and realized they were seeing the outline of something colossal, an unseen mass, a gravitational presence bending the orbits of entire superclusters. They called it the Great Attractor. Yet the name itself was an admission of ignorance. It was not a description, not an explanation, but a marker of surrender. We had found something too large to ignore, too invisible to define. The Great Attractor. The words strike a chord of unease, like the title of an ancient myth or the whisper of an omen. It lies in a region of space obscured by the dense disk of the Milky Way, a part of the sky so full of stars, dust, and gas that our instruments struggle to see through. Astronomers call this the zone of avoidance, for light from distant galaxies is drowned there, absorbed and scattered by the debris of our own home. And it is behind this curtain, as if deliberately concealed, that the Great Attractor waits. What is it? That question has haunted astronomy for decades. Theories abound. Perhaps it is a massive concentration of galaxies, a cluster so dense that its collective gravity warps the paths of its neighbors. Perhaps it is dark matter, invisible scaffolding binding galaxies together, pooling in places where our eyes cannot follow. Perhaps it is something stranger still, something beyond the boundaries of known physics. Whatever it is, the Great Attractor does not reveal itself. It pulls, but it does not show. To understand its scale, we must expand our imaginations beyond anything familiar. The Milky Way, with its hundreds of billions of stars, is a giant by human standards. Yet, compared to the Great Attractor, it is nothing more than a pebble in a landslide. Even galaxy clusters, those sprawling gatherings of thousands of galaxies, are but fragments of the gravity well that seems to sit behind the zone of avoidance. It is not an object that fits easily into our mental furniture. It is not a single thing, but a region, a convergence, a whisper of vastness. And yet, the evidence is undeniable. Surveys of galaxy motions show a dipole pattern, a cosmic fingerprint of attraction. Distant galaxies on one side of the sky appear slightly closer, while those on the opposite side appear to fall away. The effect cannot be explained by expansion alone. Something is tugging at us, distorting our view, leaving its imprint on the very structure of space. The Great Attractor announces itself not by light, but by distortion, not by presence, but by consequence. It is a shadow made real by its effect on others. Consider what this means for human perception. For millennia, we trusted what we could see. The sun rose, the moon waned, stars traced predictable paths. But the Great Attractor laughs at sight. It proves that what is most important in the universe cannot always be observed directly. It hides, yet it rules. It is invisible, yet it dominates. And that realization is as humbling as it is terrifying, that the universe is guided by forces beyond vision, beyond imagination, beyond our consent. Astronomers, undeterred by the obscuring dust of the zone of avoidance, turn to new instruments, infrared telescopes able to pierce through veils of gas, radio telescopes, listening to hydrogen's quiet song across millions of light years, X-ray observatories, detecting the glow of hot plasma in clusters hidden behind our own galactic plane. Each wavelength peeled back a layer of the curtain, and slowly, piece by piece, an image began to form. A region dense with galaxies, rich with mass, brimming with gravity, and yet, still, incomplete. For every galaxy revealed, another was hidden deeper. The attractor refused to surrender fully. It remained a shadow, half-glimpsed, never fully pinned down. Its nature seemed to shift as our instruments improved. At times it appeared a cluster, at times a supercluster, at times merely a waypoint on the road to something even larger. It was as if the Great Attractor itself mocked us, showing us only fragments, never the whole, reminding us of the limits of sight and the arrogance of certainty. And so, speculation grew. Some scientists suggested that the Great Attractor might not exist as a single coherent entity at all, but only as the illusion of converging flows, a side effect of larger gravities beyond. Perhaps what we call the Great Attractor is merely the first bend in the river, the first turn of a current that stretches far into the unseen. If so, then its very name is a misdirection, pointing us not to a destination, but to the beginning of a longer path, one that leads to the Shapley supercluster, and perhaps beyond even that. This ambiguity is not failure, it is revelation. It shows us that the universe is stranger than our categories, wilder than our maps. To name something is to draw a boundary around it. But the Great Attractor refuses boundaries. It spills across them, slipping from one definition to another, reminding us that reality is not built to fit our words. It is vast, and we are small, and our knowledge is only the thinnest thread stretched across a gulf of ignorance. Yet, as terrifying as that is, there is also wonder, for to live in a universe with a Great Attractor is to live in a universe still full of secrets. Not everything has been revealed. Not everything has been tamed. We walk among mysteries, and one of them is pulling us closer with every second. In a time when humanity often feels it has conquered knowledge, solved the riddles of nature, the Great Attractor reminds us that the greatest riddles remain, and perhaps they always will. Think of it this way. Right now, as you hear these words, our galaxy is falling. Falling not toward empty space, but toward something enormous, hidden, shrouded. Every star you see in the sky, every nebula, every world, they are all falling too. The Andromeda Galaxy, though it will one day collide with ours, shares the same motion, drawn into the same current. Galaxies separated by hundreds of millions of light years are part of the same fall, converging like raindrops sliding down a window pane toward a hidden corner. This is not mere motion. It is destiny. And destiny, once glimpsed, reshapes everything. The Great Attractor is not just an astrophysical anomaly. It is a symbol of our helplessness, our lack of control, our place in a cosmos that will not answer to us. And it is also a symbol of wonder, of mystery, of the truth that the universe will never be fully mapped, that no matter how far we reach, there will always be depths hidden in darkness, summoning us onward. But let us pause and consider the strangeness of this name, this label we give so casually, the Great Attractor. It is both majestic and unsettling. To call something great is to acknowledge its scale, its dominance. To call something an attractor is to surrender agency, to admit that we are not choosing, but being chosen. It is a name that hints at awe and fear, at inevitability and surrender. It is less a scientific designation than a whisper of dread across the halls of cosmology. For what kind of universe hides its greatest mass in its darkest corner? What kind of reality places its most profound secret behind the one curtain we cannot easily pierce? Is this coincidence? Or is it a reminder written into the stars? That knowledge is never easy, that truth is never given freely, that every revelation demands struggle. To glimpse the Great Attractor is to confront both physics and philosophy, to see in its pull the reflection of our own ignorance, our own yearning, our own hunger for meaning. Astronomers know this hunger well. They have built instruments to pierce every veil, infrared telescopes to see the warmth of stars behind dust, radio arrays to catch the whispers of hydrogen, X-ray observatories to see hot plasma glowing in the darkness. Each tool reveals another layer, and with each layer the Great Attractor grows both clearer and stranger. We see concentrations of galaxies, yes, but also hints of something larger, a structure too vast to be explained by luminous matter alone. We suspect the presence of dark matter, the invisible skeleton holding this giant together. And this suspicion leads us deeper into darkness. For perhaps what anchors the attractor is not ordinary matter at all, but dark matter, unseen, undetectable, except by its pull. If so, then the Great Attractor is not just a collection of galaxies. It is a monument of the invisible, a place where the hidden skeleton of the universe reveals its shape. Imagine billions of solar masses gathered into a vast web of gravity, unseen by any eye, holding luminous galaxies like fireflies pinned to a net. To look for the attractor is to look for the bones of reality itself. But even this theory may not suffice. For some scientists believe the attractor may only be an echo, a signpost of something even greater, the Shapley supercluster, lying farther still, beyond our first line of sight. If that is true, then the Great Attractor is merely the first shadow of a deeper abyss, the first whisper of a greater pull. In that case, the attractor is not the end of the journey, but the beginning. And what we feel now, this immense gravitational current, is only the opening act of a far longer story. Think of what that means. If the Great Attractor is not itself the final destination, then our galaxy is part of a longer pilgrimage, drawn across hundreds of millions of light years, guided not by will, but by gravity. This is destiny written not in myth, but in physics. It is the reminder that we are not stationary, not independent, not free. We are participants in a cosmic migration, one that began before our species was born, and will continue long after it is gone. And yet, does this not mirror the condition of human life itself? We think we choose, but so often we are drawn toward desires, toward fears, toward patterns written long before us. We are pulled by culture, by history, by longing, by mortality itself. Just as the Great Attractor summons galaxies, so unseen forces summon us. We live not in autonomy, but in gravity, gravitational fields of psychology, of society, of time. We are carried, even when we believe we walk freely. There is poetry in this realization, for the Great Attractor is not just a physical location. It is a metaphor, a mirror, a myth made real. It tells us that the universe is not passive, not empty, not neutral. It is active, dynamic, alive with motion. It pulls, it beckons, it chooses. And in its choosing, we are bound. To exist in such a universe is to be carried always into the unknown. The zone of avoidance, the curtain behind which the attractor hides, deepens the metaphor. For our lives, too, have zones of avoidance, places we cannot look, truths we cannot face, memories we bury. Yet, behind those curtains often lie the forces that shape us most. So it is with the galaxy. So it is with us. The Great Attractor is not only a gravitational mystery, it is a parable about what lies unseen, what drives us most, what summons us despite our blindness. And still, the science continues. Maps improve, surveys deepen. Each year brings new glimpses into the hidden heart of gravity, but the attractor remains elusive, never fully captured, always one step beyond certainty. It is as though the universe is teasing us, offering enough evidence to confirm its presence, but never enough to explain it fully. A cosmic riddle written not in words, but in the motions of galaxies, in the flows of light, in the tilt of space-time itself. So, here we are, poised on the edge of revelation. The Great Attractor emerges not in clarity, but in shadow, not in answers, but in questions. And perhaps that is the point, for the greatest mysteries are not those that are solved, but those that continue to draw us forward, pulling us into deeper wonder. The attractor does not end mystery. It is mystery, embodied, magnified, given gravitational form. And as we drift closer, carried by the current of time and gravity, we are left with only questions. What waits for us there? A cluster of galaxies, dense and luminous, a mountain of dark matter, unseen and overwhelming, or something stranger still, something beyond the frame of physics itself? We do not know. We cannot know. All we can do is watch the stars slide across the map, measure their motions, and trust the evidence that tells us, yes, something is there. Something vast. Something waiting. The Great Attractor. A name whispered through the halls of science. A name heavy with awe and dread. It is not a star, not a planet, not a black hole. It is something greater, something that bends the paths of galaxies, something that mocks the limits of sight. It is the abyss with gravity, and it is calling us. This is where our journey leads now. The Milky Way is falling, and ahead of us, through dust and shadow, through veils of darkness and silence, the Great Attractor waits. Not visible, not understood, but undeniable. And as we move closer, we must accept the truth, that we are passengers in a universe we cannot control, bound for a destination we cannot see, summoned by a force that will not release us until we arrive. The deeper we trace the pull of the Great Attractor, the more we collide with an obstacle that seems almost designed to keep its secret hidden, the zone of avoidance. Even the name carries weight. It is the part of the night sky astronomers avoid, not because they want to, but because they must. It is not empty space, but the thick curtain of our own galaxy, a veil of stars and dust so dense that it blinds us to what lies beyond. And it is directly behind this cosmic shroud that the Great Attractor hides. For centuries, astronomers charted the sky like cartographers mapping continents. They plotted stars, traced constellations, marked nebulae, but every map had a blank region, a scar that cut through the heavens like a band of darkness. There was too much dust, too much starlight, too much gas. The instruments of the past could not pierce it, and so, the zone of avoidance became a blindfold tied across human vision. Behind it, anything could hide. Behind it, everything did. And perhaps it still does. It is almost too poetic. The force that pulls us most strongly, the mystery that defines our cosmic destiny, lies exactly in the one place we cannot see. It is as if the universe itself has placed a barrier, as if the truth is meant to remain hidden. For what greater irony could there be? We can see galaxies billions of light years away, but not the ones in our own neighborhood, not the ones in the direction of our journey. We are travelers heading toward a destination shrouded in shadow. The zone of avoidance stretches across the plain of the Milky Way, where stars crowd together in dazzling density. Dust clouds scatter and absorb light, obscuring anything behind them. Even the most powerful optical telescopes fail here. It is a wall of radiance that becomes, paradoxically, a wall of blindness. To look into it is to stare into brilliance and see only darkness. Behind that curtain lies the Great Attractor, hidden as if in deliberate concealment. But science is persistence. Astronomers refuse to accept blindness. They turn to new eyes. Infrared light, longer in wavelength, can slip through dust where visible light cannot. Radio waves can pass even further, whispering through clouds of obscuration. X-rays reveal the glow of matter, heated to millions of degrees, shining beyond the veil. With these tools, astronomers began to peer into the zone of avoidance, slowly, carefully, as if lifting the edge of a cosmic curtain. And what they found was unsettling. Clusters of galaxies once invisible emerged. Vast structures appeared, woven into the hidden tapestry of the universe. The Great Attractor was not a single point, but a dense, sprawling region filled with galaxies, clusters, superclusters, all converging in gravitational embrace. And still, the picture was incomplete. Every time a new survey pierced deeper, more questions emerged. The Great Attractor seemed both more real and more elusive, both closer and farther, both massive and yet perhaps not the final explanation. The zone of avoidance is more than a technical obstacle. It is a metaphor for the limits of knowledge. In every life, in every age, there are things we cannot face, places we cannot see, blind spots in memory, in history, in self. And yet, Often it is precisely in those blind spots that the forces shaping us are hidden. The Great Attractor lives behind such a blind spot. To acknowledge it is to confess that the most powerful truths may be the ones we cannot directly observe. We know them only by the way they pull at us. Imagine standing on a shoreline at night, hearing waves crash, but seeing only a wall of fog. You cannot see the ocean, but you feel its presence in the air, smell its salt, hear its rhythm. That is how we know the Great Attractor exists. Not because we see it, but because we feel its echo in the motions of galaxies, in the dipole of the cosmic microwave background, in the distortions of the cosmic web. The zone of avoidance blocks our eyes, but not our evidence. The attractor reveals itself through its effects, and yet, the thought persists. What if the zone of avoidance hides more than we imagine? What if behind that veil lies not just a cluster, not just a supercluster, but something stranger, something we do not yet have the language to describe? For the truth is that even with all our instruments, the curtain is not fully lifted. Even now, the Great Attractor remains half hidden, its full nature uncertain. And so, the zone of avoidance remains both a physical veil and a symbolic one, a reminder that there is always more beyond sight. The effort to map this hidden region has led to some of the most ambitious surveys in astronomy. The Parkes Radio Telescope in Australia scanning hydrogen emissions, infrared surveys tracing galaxies through the dust, X-ray observatories uncovering hidden clusters. Piece by piece, the darkness gave way to outlines, but the outlines only deepened the enigma, because as the attractor came into view, so too did hints of something larger beyond it. The Shapley supercluster, more massive still, perhaps the true engine of our motion. And here the terror sharpens. For if the Great Attractor is partly visible through the zone of avoidance, if its galaxies can be counted, its clusters mapped, its outlines drawn, then what of the structures still deeper, still farther, hidden beyond the curtain? The veil does not only conceal the present mystery, it hints at further mysteries, stacked one behind another, like a hall of mirrors receding into infinity. We may never know how many secrets lie buried in that zone, how many gravitational giants call to us from the other side. Think of the irony. The Milky Way itself blinds us to our destiny. Our galaxy, the very home that shelters us, is also the obstacle that hides the future. It is as if we are locked in a room whose walls are painted with dazzling murals, so bright and overwhelming that they prevent us from seeing the doorway beyond. We are dazzled by beauty and blinded by it at the same time. The stars we love to look at are also the stars that hide from us the truth of where we are going. And yet, astronomers continue their work, tireless against the blindness. The 2-micron all-sky survey, the H.I. Parkes all-sky survey, the zone of avoidance redshift survey, each one a step deeper into the shadows, each one peeling back the curtain a little more. The picture grows sharper, but never complete. We glimpse clusters colliding, galaxies merging, vast filaments stretching behind the dust. And every glimpse whispers the same truth. The attractor is there. It is massive. It is pulling us. And it may not be alone. The zone of avoidance is not unique to astronomy. It exists in all sciences, in all searches for knowledge. It is the place where instruments fail, where data runs out, where imagination falters. And yet, it is also the place where wonder thrives. For the unknown is not emptiness, it is invitation. The zone of avoidance invites us to push harder, to build better tools, to ask deeper questions. Without its obstacle, we might take sight for granted. With it, we are forced to imagine. And imagination is often the doorway to discovery. Consider the human mind. We too avoid certain zones. We bury trauma, we suppress doubt, we avert our gaze from mortality. And yet, just as with the cosmos, those avoided zones hold the truths that define us. Behind the curtain of avoidance lies the gravity of who we are. The Great Attractor, hidden in its cosmic zone, becomes the mirror of our psychological blind spots. It reminds us that what we cannot face is often what guides us most powerfully. To move toward it is terrifying. To deny it is impossible. When telescopes began to pierce the zone of avoidance, astronomers described a strange sensation. It was like looking into fog and realizing the fog has structure. Galaxies appeared faintly, like lanterns glimpsed through mist. Clusters revealed themselves as shadows glowing faintly against the dark. The feeling was not clarity, but haunting. seeing enough to know something immense was there, but never enough to define it completely. The attractor was emerging, but only in fragments, like a figure seen through smoke, its outline suggested, its body concealed. This is how humanity meets its greatest mysteries, not in sudden revelation, but in glimpses, in silhouettes, in partial truths. We never see the full picture. We see outlines, distortions, reflections. The zone of avoidance ensures this. It forces us to live with incompleteness, and perhaps that is the deeper lesson. That life itself is always seen through veils. That truth is always partial. That destiny is always glimpsed, never grasped. And so, into the zone of avoidance we stare, straining to glimpse the hidden heart of gravity. What is there? A dense cluster of galaxies? A supercluster merging with others? A colossus of dark matter, unseen but undeniable? Or something else, something stranger, something beyond our current physics? Each answer deepens the question. Each glimpse feeds the hunger, and always the veil remains. But even as it blinds, the zone of avoidance teaches. It shows us that darkness is not nothing, that what we cannot see may be more real than what we can, that the invisible may shape us more profoundly than the visible ever could. And in that sense, the attractor is not hidden from us as punishment, but as revelation. It is there to remind us that the universe is larger than our eyes, larger than our tools, larger than our imagination. Imagine for a moment that you are an ancient traveler, navigating seas with only the stars for guidance. You chart constellations, you memorize their rise and fall, you trust them as maps. And then you encounter a region of sky where no map works, where the stars are too thick, too tangled, too blinding. What would you feel? Fear, awe, confusion. That is what astronomers face with the zone of avoidance, a place in the sky where the very abundance of stars robs us of clarity, where the home we love most becomes the wall we cannot see through. The veil of our galaxy is both gift and curse. Without its stars, without its dust, we would not exist. Yet those same stars and dust deny us the sight of our destination. The zone of avoidance is thus an exquisite paradox. The thing that gave us life is the thing that blinds us to our future. Our cradle has become our mask. We look outward, but our vision is forever shaped by the home we inhabit. And yet, humans are not deterred by masks. We build tools to pierce them. We invent new senses to see what eyes cannot. Infrared, radio, X-ray, gamma, each new instrument is a prosthetic for the blind. Each allows us to peel back one more layer of the curtain. The history of astronomy is the history of defiance, of refusing to accept darkness as final. And so, we have begun, slowly, to dissolve the zone of avoidance, to make maps where once there was blankness, to sketch the unseen with the patience of centuries. But even as we do, the mystery deepens. For the more clearly we glimpse the attractor, the less simple it becomes. It is not a single mass, not a solitary cluster, but a weave of structures, a tangled knot of galaxies and filaments. The zone of avoidance does not conceal a single answer. It conceals a labyrinth. And each time we peer further, the labyrinth grows larger. What we thought was a destination becomes a pathway. What we thought was an end becomes a beginning. This truth gnaws at the edges of human thought. We crave answers, we long for resolution, we want the curtain to fall and the stage to be revealed. But the universe is not a play, not a story with an ending. It is an endless unfolding, a perpetual concealment, a mystery that multiplies. The zone of avoidance is the emblem of this truth. Even if we pierce it fully, even if we see all it hides, there will be further veils, deeper shadows, greater mysteries beyond. And so, the attractor is not hidden to frustrate us. It is hidden to remind us that knowing is never finished. That discovery is not conquest, but pilgrimage. That to live is to journey through veils, through shadows, through avoidances. The zone is not avoidance at all. It is invitation. In this sense, astronomy becomes more than science. It becomes spiritual practice. To peer into the zone of avoidance is to meditate on the limits of vision, the fragility of knowledge, the humility of being small. To trace the pull of the attractor behind it is to recognize that truth is not always visible, but always felt. That reality is not what we see, but what shapes us unseen. And that our journey both as galaxies and as humans is defined by the currents that carry us through the dark. And perhaps that is the final paradox. that what blinds us is also what guides us. The zone of avoidance conceals the Great Attractor, but it also reveals the persistence of our species, our refusal to surrender to blindness. We are drawn toward it not only by gravity, but by curiosity, by wonder, by the human need to know. The stars block our view, yet those same stars gave birth to us. The dust hides our future, yet that same dust formed our world. What obscures us is what created us. And so, the veil is not only a barrier, it is a reminder of origins. So we look into the zone, and we see more than science. We see ourselves. We see the limits of our perception, the hunger of our spirit, the inevitability of our motion. And we know that even as galaxies plunge into the attractor's embrace, so do we plunge into our own unknowns. Each life, like each galaxy, is carried through veils of blindness toward ends unseen. And perhaps that is why the zone of avoidance haunts us, because it is not only out there in the sky, it is within us. It is the curtain of denial that both blinds and defines. And thus, as we continue our cosmic journey, the zone of avoidance stands as both barrier and beacon. It says, there is more than you can see, more than you can imagine, more than you will ever fully know. And beyond that veil, the Great Attractor waits, not as an answer, but as a question, not as a destination, but as a summons. And whether we wish it or not, the Milky Way is answering that summons, rushing onward into shadow, and so are we. For decades, the Great Attractor haunted astronomers like a phantom. Its pull was undeniable, its presence etched into the motion of galaxies. But just as the outlines of this hidden colossus began to sharpen, another revelation emerged. Perhaps the Great Attractor was not the true destination at all. Perhaps it was only the first shadow, the first bend in the current, a waypoint on the road to something even larger, and that something bore a name as heavy as its mass: the Shapley supercluster. The Shapley concentration, as it is sometimes called, is one of the most massive structures in the nearby universe. Located about 650 million light-years away in the constellation of Centaurus, it is a gathering of clusters upon clusters, galaxies upon galaxies, bound together by gravity into a continent of stars. If the Great Attractor is a river's bend, Shapley is the ocean toward which that river flows. It is so immense that its gravitational influence may stretch across hundreds of millions of light-years, reaching us even here, in our distant corner of the cosmos. Here the story deepens, because the very existence of Shapley shifts our understanding of the Great Attractor. For years, we thought the attractor itself was the endpoint, the gravitational sink pulling us into its unseen valley. But surveys revealed something larger, farther, heavier. The Shapley supercluster seemed to align perfectly with the direction of our motion. Could it be that the Great Attractor is not a single destination, but only a local slope on the grand descent into Shapley's abyss? The numbers are staggering. The Shapley supercluster contains more than 8,000 galaxies spread across dozens of massive clusters. Its total mass is estimated at 10 million billion times the mass of the Sun. To place that in perspective, our Milky Way is a mere speck, a drop of water compared to Shapley's ocean. Even the Virgo cluster, home to our local supercluster, pales beside it. Shapley is not just larger, it is overwhelming. A gravitational titan dwarfing anything in our cosmic neighborhood. Imagine an archipelago of islands, each one vast, each one teeming with life. Now imagine all those islands drifting, not randomly, but together, pulled toward a greater landmass beyond the horizon. That is the role Shapley plays. Clusters separated by millions of light-years drift toward its gravity. Galaxies that will never meet in any practical sense nonetheless bow to its pull. The structure of the cosmic web itself bends around it, filaments of matter feeding into its depth like rivers into a sea. And so, the Shapley supercluster becomes not merely a structure among others, but a revelation about the architecture of the cosmos itself. It shows us that the universe is not uniform, not evenly spread, but punctuated by extremes. There are deserts of emptiness, vast voids stretching hundreds of millions of light-years, and then there are mountains of matter like Shapley, concentrations so massive they warp the flow of galaxies on scales beyond comprehension. The universe is a landscape, and Shapley is one of its towering peaks. To understand the immensity of Shapley, One must think not in numbers, but in metaphors. Imagine standing before a mountain range that spans the horizon in every direction. Imagine an ocean so vast that continents vanish within it. That is what Shapley is to galaxies. It is the Himalaya of matter, the Pacific of stars, a gravitational Everest rising out of the fabric of space-time. And like Everest, it exerts a pull not only on bodies, but on minds. For to glimpse its scale is to feel the smallness of everything else. Astronomers came to suspect Shapley's influence when they mapped the flow of galaxies with ever greater precision. The current toward the Great Attractor was real, but it did not stop there. Galaxies continued to stream, continued to tilt, continued to fall even after passing through that hidden basin. The river did not end. It widened, deepened, became a torrent. And at the mouth of that torrent was Shapley. The Great Attractor, it seemed, was only the slope leading down into Shapley's sea. This realization unsettled the very language we used. For years, the Great Attractor carried the weight of ultimate mystery. But in the presence of Shapley, even that grand name seemed inadequate. If the attractor is great, Shapley is greater still. It is the unseen continent behind the visible island, the deeper abyss behind the shadow we first encountered. To know Shapley is to know that mystery does not end. It expands. The Shapley supercluster is so massive that it belongs to an even larger hierarchy of structures. It anchors a region of space we now recognize as part of the Laniakea supercluster, the immeasurable heaven, to which our own galaxy belongs. Within that immeasurable heaven, Shapley is a gravitational summit, a peak to which rivers of galaxies flow. This is to realize that the Milky Way, tiny as it is part of a continent of motion. Our galaxy is not merely drifting, it is climbing the slope of Shapley's gravity. But here lies the paradox. For if Shapley is the true source of our motion, then the Great Attractor is not a destination at all, but an illusion created by perspective, a mirage born of partial sight. We are not moving toward a single gravitational monster hidden behind the zone of avoidance. We are being carried into a larger flow, one that stretches past the attractor and into Shapley's domain. The Great Attractor was never the end. It was the beginning of an unveiling. Consider the philosophical weight of this shift. Humanity often believes it has arrived at answers, only to discover that those answers are doors to deeper questions. The Great Attractor humbled us, but Shapley humbles us even more, for it tells us that the universe does not yield its secrets in simple revelations. Each discovery opens into greater ignorance. Each explanation collapses into deeper mystery. Knowledge is not a fortress, it is a labyrinth, and Shapley is one of its darkest corridors, and yet, in that darkness, there is awe. For Shapley shows us the true interconnectedness of the universe. Galaxies hundreds of millions of light years apart are not isolated. They are bound, not by choice, not by will, but by the invisible geometry of gravity. Shapley is the proof that the universe is a web, and we are caught in it. The Milky Way is not free. It is tethered, guided, carried into a larger whole. Our fate is written not by us, but by the mass of millions of galaxies gathered in Shapley's embrace. Imagine watching a river grow as tributaries join it, each stream swelling the flow until it becomes unstoppable. That is what happens as galaxies fall toward Shapley. Smaller currents, once thought isolated, merge into greater ones. Local clusters stream together, their paths bending toward the same gravitational well. And as these streams converge, we begin to see the shape of something far greater than the sum of its parts. Shapley is not a single structure, it is a convergence, a symphony of motion. The sheer size of Shapley challenges even our instruments. When astronomers map its region, they do not see neat boundaries, but sprawling, tangled webs of clusters stretching in every direction. It is not a point, it is a continent, and like continents on Earth, it reshapes the flow of everything around it. Just as mountain ranges redirect winds, Shapley redirects galaxies. Just as oceans gather rivers, Shapley gathers filaments of matter. It is a gravitational geography written across hundreds of millions of light years. But what does it mean to live in a universe where such structures exist? It means that order and chaos are not opposites, but partners. The universe is expanding, yes, but within that expansion are places of gathering, nodes of density, regions where the dance slows and deepens. Shapley is one such place. It is the reminder that even in a universe rushing apart, There are still centers, still gravities that call galaxies home. Expansion is not the only story. Attraction is the counterpoint. And so, as our galaxy races onward, carried by flows we cannot resist, we must ask, what lies at the heart of Shapley? If galaxies fall into its embrace, do they collide, merge, dissolve into something larger? Does Shapley represent stability or violence? Perhaps both. For to fall into gravity is to be reshaped. Clusters colliding release bursts of energy, shocks of plasma, fireworks of creation and destruction. Shapley is not only a monument of stillness, it is a furnace of change. In this furnace, new stars are born. Clouds of gas, compressed by collisions, ignite into brilliance. But old stars also die, shredded by tidal forces, swallowed by black holes. Shapley is both cradle and grave, both creation and annihilation. To be drawn toward it is to be drawn into the cycle of renewal. Our galaxy, though far from reaching its depths, is nonetheless part of that larger destiny, to contribute one day to the great reshaping at Shapley's core. This realization confronts us with our own paradox. We seek permanence, yet we live in impermanence. We seek control, yet we are carried. Shapley embodies this truth on the grandest scale. It tells us that nothing is fixed, that even galaxies are temporary, that even clusters dissolve into greater flows. To see Shapley is to see the truth of transience, magnified across cosmic time. And yet, this truth need not be despairing, for there is beauty in belonging to something so vast. To know that the atoms in our bodies, forged in ancient stars, are part of a galaxy that itself is part of a supercluster, that itself is drawn toward Shapley. This is to know that we are woven into the largest of tapestries. We are not isolated sparks. We are threads in the immeasurable fabric. Shapley reveals that belonging is not a choice. It is the nature of existence itself. But even Shapley may not be the final destination, for beyond it, the cosmic web continues. Larger structures await, greater flows beckon. Perhaps Shapley itself is only a way station on the road to something unimaginable, something beyond the horizon of our instruments. If so, then we live in an infinite hierarchy of attractors, each larger than the last, each revealing only the next layer of mystery. To live in such a universe is to accept that there may be no final answer, no final destination, only an endless unfolding. To speak of Shapley is to speak of gravity made visible on its grandest scale. Imagine space as a sheet stretched taut, and every star, every galaxy, every cluster has a weight pressing into it. Most are small dimples. Some are deep wells. But Shapley is a canyon, a vast depression into which whole rivers of galaxies slide. Its presence is not local. It bends the sheet across hundreds of millions of light years, distorting the paths of galaxies far outside its borders. To map the universe without Shapley is to leave out one of its deepest scars. But perhaps the most disquieting truth about Shapley is not its size, but its inevitability. We are not merely near it, not merely aware of it. We are falling toward it. Every second, our galaxy moves closer. Every moment, the gap shrinks. And though the journey will take hundreds of millions of years, the trajectory is fixed. It is as though we have glimpsed our own death written in the stars. Distant, slow, but inevitable. The Milky Way is a passenger in Shapley's gravity, and so are we. What does it mean to know the destination of one's galaxy? What does it mean to live knowing that our world is part of a current rushing toward a colossal basin of matter? For some, it inspires dread, the thought of being swallowed by a structure so immense it renders individuality meaningless. For others, it inspires awe, the chance to belong to something larger, to be carried into a cathedral of stars. Both responses are human. Both are true. For Shapley is both terror and wonder, both abyss and home. And the philosophy deepens further, because Shapley reveals that the universe is not random motion, but structured flow. It is not chaos, but patterned chaos, with rivers, basins, attractors, and summits. It is a reminder that beneath apparent disorder lies hidden order, a geometry we cannot always see, but always feel. The Great Attractor was the first hint of that geometry. Shapley is the second. What comes after, we cannot yet know. But we can be certain there will always be another curtain, another layer. There is also the question of dark matter. For the luminous galaxies we see in Shapley are only a fraction of its mass. The rest lies hidden, unseen, in halos of dark matter that bind the clusters together. Shapley is not only a monument of light, it is a monument of shadow. The majority of its mass is invisible, yet its effects are undeniable. It is the perfect metaphor for truth itself, unseen but unavoidable. The unseen outweighs the seen. The invisible carries more weight than the visible. The gravity of mystery always outweighs the clarity of revelation. Perhaps that is the deepest lesson of Shapley, that what is invisible can define us more than what is visible, that the currents of life, love, fear, time, death are unseen, but they are what move us most profoundly. The stars of Shapley shine, yes, but its greatest weight is hidden, and in that hiddenness, it mirrors the hidden currents of our own existence. We are not guided by what we see. We are guided by what lies beneath sight. So let us imagine, for a moment, the future. Millions of years from now, galaxies will continue to stream toward Shapley. Collisions will reshape its clusters. Black holes will feast on falling stars. New stars will ignite, only to fade again. The structure will evolve, deepen, darken, and eventually, perhaps, Shapley itself will merge into something larger still, another node in the endless web. The river never ends. The currents never stop. The mystery never resolves. It only flows onward. This is the grandeur and the terror of Shapley. It is not only a destination. It is a reminder that the universe itself is endless migration, that nothing is fixed, that everything is carried, that even the greatest attractors are only steps along a longer path. And we, caught in this flow, can do nothing but witness, wonder, and surrender to the truth, that we are part of a cosmic river without end. And so, the story of the Great Attractor dissolves into the story of Shapley. What we thought was the final abyss is only the beginning of a greater one. What we thought was the destination is only a shadow of a larger fate. And behind Shapley, perhaps, another abyss waits. The universe does not end in answers. It deepens in questions. And Shapley is one of its most haunting questions. What is the true shape of the current that carries us, and where will it finally lead? We have followed the current from the Milky Way to the Great Attractor, and from there to Shapley's ocean of galaxies. But to truly understand why these structures exist at all, we must go deeper beneath the surface of light itself. For what we see, the stars, the galaxies, the luminous web, is only a fraction of reality. The true architecture of the cosmos is invisible. It is a skeleton made not of starlight, but of shadow, a framework of dark matter, unseen yet essential, that holds the universe together. Without this skeleton, there would be no Great Attractor, no Shapley, no galaxies at all. The universe would be a thin mist of particles, expanding forever without ever forming the shapes we know. It is dark matter that carved the valleys into which galaxies fall. It is dark matter that gathered the rivers of motion, that sculpted the cosmic web, that gave rise to the very currents that now carry us toward unseen fates. And yet, dark matter remains one of the greatest mysteries in all of science. We know it exists not because we can see it, but because we cannot explain the universe without it. Galaxies spin too fast for their visible mass to hold them together. Clusters of galaxies contain too much gravity to be explained by stars alone. Light from distant objects bends more than visible matter accounts for. In every test, in every observation, there is more gravity than there is light. Something invisible outweighs everything we see. Astronomers call it dark matter, but the name is an admission of ignorance. It is not dark in the sense of shadowed, but dark in the sense of unknown. It neither emits nor absorbs light. It does not shine. It does not reveal itself directly. And yet it is everywhere, 5 times more abundant than the matter that makes up stars, planets, and people. You are made of atoms, yes. But most of the universe is not. Most of the universe is made of something else, something that refuses to show its face. This realization changes everything. It tells us that what we see is not the whole, but the exception. That the luminous universe, the galaxies scattered like jewels across space, is only the frosting on a cake whose mass lies beneath. That our eyes, evolved to capture photons, are blind to most of existence. We are sighted in a world of darkness, thinking the glimmers we see are the full truth, when in fact, they are only fragments. The cosmic web, mapped in immense detail by surveys and simulations, shows filaments stretching like tendrils across hundreds of millions of light years. But what gives these filaments their strength is not the light we see, but the dark we do not. Dark matter forms the scaffolding. Galaxies are merely the beads strung along its threads. The Great Attractor, the Shapley supercluster. These are not accidents of luminous matter. They are the inevitable consequence of dark matter's invisible bones. To accept this is to accept that we live in a universe where the unseen rules the seen, where the majority of existence is hidden, where the most powerful forces are the ones beyond sight. And that is a truth as humbling as it is terrifying. For it means that we are children of the unseen. We are passengers in a universe whose foundation is invisible. We live in a cathedral built not of light, but of shadow. Consider how we first discovered this hidden mass. In the 1930s, Fritz Zwicky observed galaxies in the Coma cluster. They moved too fast, as though an unseen hand was pulling them. By all rights, the cluster should have flown apart. Yet, it held together. Zwicky proposed the existence of dunkle Materie, dark matter. His idea was controversial, even dismissed. But decade after decade, evidence mounted. Vera Rubin later confirmed that galaxies spun in defiance of their visible mass. Their stars orbited with velocities that light alone could not explain. It is a haunting thought, that the greatest share of the universe is made of something we cannot see. More than that, we may never be able to see it. Dark matter does not interact with light. It does not glow. It does not shadow. It is transparent not only to our eyes, but to our instruments. We know it only by its pull, by its distortions, by the way it bends light from galaxies behind it, in a phenomenon known as gravitational lensing. Dark matter is like the outline of a ghost revealed by its footprints in the snow. Simulations of the universe show us this ghostly architecture in astonishing detail. Computer models, seeded with dark matter, evolve into webs of filaments strikingly similar to what we observe in galaxy surveys. Without dark matter, the simulations produce nothing like the universe we know. With it, the resemblance is uncanny. The conclusion is inescapable. We are living in a universe shaped by what we cannot see. Galaxies, clusters, superclusters, all of them are passengers riding along dark highways of gravity. And so, when we speak of the Great Attractor, when we speak of Shapley, what we are truly speaking of is the skeleton beneath them. The attractor is not merely galaxies pulling galaxies. It is dark matter wells pulling luminous matter into their depths. The river of motion that carries us is a river carved by the unseen. We are not falling into light. We are falling into shadow. The philosophical implications are profound. For if most of the universe is invisible, then sight is not truth. Vision is not reality. The very faculty on which we base our experience of existence is inadequate. We trust our eyes, yet the eyes are liars. They show us only the smallest fraction of what is there. To know the universe is to admit blindness. To seek truth is to learn to navigate by forces we cannot see. And does this not mirror our own lives? We make decisions based on what is visible, on appearances, on surfaces, on the flickers of light that reach us. Yet beneath those surfaces lie the hidden forces that shape us most profoundly. Unconscious desires, inherited histories, unspoken fears. Just as galaxies are carried by dark matter scaffolds, so too are we carried by invisible frameworks of memory and meaning. To live is to be shaped by what we cannot see. Dark matter, then, is not only a scientific mystery, it is a metaphor, a mirror. It shows us that existence itself is always more than appearances. That truth lies beneath sight, that the currents that move us are not always visible, but always real. Some imagine dark matter as a hidden ocean in which galaxies float like ships. We see the ships, but not the water that carries them. Others describe it as scaffolding, the invisible framework on which the cathedral of the cosmos is built. Still others think of it as a vast unseen net, with galaxies caught in its strands like insects in a web. Each metaphor fails, and yet each reveals something essential, that the visible universe is not free. It is suspended in something larger, something it cannot escape. The search for dark matter has become one of the greatest quests of modern science. Deep underground, in laboratories shielded from cosmic rays, scientists build detectors designed to catch the faintest whisper of dark matter particles passing through. Vast tanks of liquid xenon wait for a collision that may never come. Sensitive instruments measure tiny flashes of light, hoping to record the invisible. Years pass. Silence reigns. The dark matter remains hidden. But the search continues, relentless, because the universe demands explanation. and perhaps it will always be so. Perhaps dark matter cannot be caught, cannot be seen, cannot be held. Perhaps its very nature is to remain hidden, to shape without revealing, to exist without being known. If so, then our search is not failure, but encounter. We encounter the limit of knowledge. We stand before mystery not as conquerors, but as witnesses. We learn that some truths are not given to sight, only to inference. And in this humility, there is wisdom. What would it mean to live in a universe where the greatest truths are hidden? It would mean that wonder is eternal. It would mean that mystery is not the exception, but the rule. It would mean that to be human is not to solve everything, but to live in reverence before the unsolved. Dark matter is not a puzzle to finish. It is a reminder that existence itself is unfinished, that reality is deeper than comprehension. And yet, dark matter is not the only shadow. There is also dark energy, stranger still, the force that drives galaxies apart, stretching space itself. If dark matter pulls, dark energy pushes. If dark matter binds, dark energy dissolves. Together they rule the cosmos, one invisible force-building structure, the other tearing it down. The luminous universe, the stars and galaxies, live only in the tension between these two unseen powers. We exist because of their balance. We are alive in the space between binding and release. This realization should terrify us, but it should also awaken us. For it means that everything familiar, our planet, our galaxy, our future, is shaped not by what we see, but by what we do not. The true rulers of the cosmos are shadows. And yet, without them, there would be no us. The invisible is not our enemy. It is our origin. It is our home. So, when we speak of the Great Attractor and Shapley, we must remember, their power comes not from the galaxies we see, but from the dark matter we do not. They are the peaks of invisible mountains, the visible tips of unseen giants. To look at them is to glimpse only the surface of the abyss. The real abyss lies beneath, in the weight of darkness that sculpts the shape of everything. Let us look closer at how dark matter reveals itself, not through presence, but through distortion. When light from distant galaxies passes near massive clusters, it bends, curving as if space itself were warped. Astronomers call this gravitational lensing, and it is the fingerprint of the unseen. Whole arcs of light, smeared and stretched, appear in telescope images. Behind them lies the truth. More mass is present than we can see. The hidden outweighs the visible. The cosmos itself is a lens, and the skeleton of dark matter is its frame. In this way, the universe confesses. Not willingly, not clearly, but through distortions, through whispers. It will not show us its skeleton directly, but it lets us glimpse its outline in the bending of light, in the trembling of stars, in the shapes of cosmic filaments. We are detectives of the invisible, piecing together evidence left in shadows. And with every clue, we realize how small the visible truly is. Consider this. Only 5% of the universe is made of the matter we know. Atoms, molecules, the familiar stuff of stars and worlds. 27% is dark matter. 68% is dark energy. 95% of existence is invisible. Imagine a library where only one shelf of books is illuminated, while the rest of the vast hall lies in darkness. We live our lives thinking that one shelf is the whole, never knowing the immensity hidden in the shadows. That is our condition in the cosmos. This truth destabilizes the old confidence of humanity. For centuries, we believed the universe was made for sight, that light was the measure of truth, that to see was to know. But the cosmos laughs at such arrogance. Sight is narrow, light is rare. Most of reality is hidden. And so, to live with honesty is to live with humility, to know that we are always surrounded by what we cannot know, to accept that even our greatest discoveries are only fragments. And yet, in this humbling, there is something transcendent. For if the universe is mostly invisible, then wonder is inexhaustible. We will never run out of mystery. We will never reach the end of discovery. There will always be veils to pierce, shadows to chase, unseen rivers to trace. Dark matter ensures that existence is not a solved equation, but an unfolding poem, never finished, never complete. The implications extend beyond science. For just as galaxies are held by invisible halos, so too are civilizations held by invisible forces. Ideas, myths, beliefs, these are our dark matter. They do not shine, yet they bind. They shape history, guide motion, define destinies. The frameworks of culture, like the scaffolds of dark matter, are unseen yet inescapable. To study the cosmos is to study ourselves, to recognize in its hidden skeleton the hidden skeletons of our own lives. But perhaps the most haunting possibility is that dark matter itself is not fundamental, that it is only a signpost pointing toward deeper physics, a hint that our understanding of gravity, of space-time itself, is incomplete. Some theorists suggest modifications of Einstein's laws, extensions of quantum theory, new particles or fields. If this is true, then dark matter is not the destination, but the doorway. The mystery we call dark may someday dissolve, revealing something stranger still. We may only be scratching the surface of existence. This is the rhythm of science. Every answer opens a deeper abyss. The Great Attractor led us to Shapley. Shapley led us to dark matter. And dark matter may lead us to something beyond physics itself. What begins as astronomy becomes ontology, the study of being. For to ask what holds galaxies together is, in the end, to ask what holds existence together. And perhaps the answer is that existence itself is shadowed, unseen, forever larger than perception. So let us surrender to this truth, that the universe is not built for our eyes, that light is only a fraction, that darkness is not absence, but presence, that the skeleton of the cosmos is woven of shadow, and we, fragile sparks of light, live only because the shadows hold. This is the meaning of dark matter. This is the weight beneath the luminous. This is the unseen hand guiding galaxies, clusters, destinies. And as we drift toward Shapley, as we fall through rivers carved by gravity, we must remember, the river itself is carved by darkness. If dark matter is the skeleton of the universe, binding galaxies into filaments, then dark energy is its breath, a silent exhalation that drives those galaxies apart. Where dark matter pulls, dark energy pushes. Where dark matter gathers, dark energy scatters. Together they shape the destiny of everything. Two invisible rulers of opposite will, locked in a cosmic tension that defines the fate of all things. It was not so long ago that we imagined the universe as slowing down, its expansion checked by gravity, perhaps one day reversing into collapse. But in the late 1990s, astronomers measuring distant supernovae made a shocking discovery. The universe is not merely expanding, it is accelerating. The galaxies are rushing away faster and faster, as if driven by an invisible hand. That hand we call dark energy. The scale of this revelation is difficult to convey. It means that the ultimate fate of the universe is not bound collapse, but endless dispersal. Not a great gathering, but a great scattering. Galaxies that are near enough to be bound together will remain, but those beyond a certain horizon will vanish from view, carried faster than light can reach us. The night sky itself will empty, star by star, until only the remnants of our own local group remain, adrift in silence. This is the future written not in speculation, but in evidence. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, bears the imprint of this energy. The distribution of galaxies across space confirms it. Every test whispers the same truth. There is a pressure in the fabric of space-time, a repulsion stronger than gravity on the largest scales. Dark energy is not a minor correction. It is the dominant component of the cosmos, comprising nearly 70% of everything that exists. And yet, like dark matter, it is invisible. It does not shine, it does not bend light, it does not cluster. It is not a thing so much as a property, an energy of space itself. Some describe it as a constant, a feature of the vacuum. Others imagine it as a dynamic field, changing with time. All we know is its effect. It pushes the universe apart, faster and faster, into the abyss of time. What does it mean to live in a universe driven by repulsion? What does it mean to exist in a cosmos where the dominant force is not attraction, but dispersal? It means that impermanence is not only the fate of stars and galaxies, but the fate of structure itself. The cosmic web we now admire will not last. The great rivers of galaxies flowing toward Shapley will, in time, be torn apart by the accelerating tide. Gravity fights to gather, but dark energy ensures that in the long run, everything dissolves. This is a story both tragic and sublime. Tragic because it tells us that the universe we know is temporary, that even the grandest structures will fade into darkness. Sublime because it reveals that existence is not static, but dynamic, a perpetual unfolding. Dark energy is the breath of impermanence, the reminder that all things, no matter how vast, must pass. The discovery of dark energy was one of those rare moments in science when the universe overturned centuries of expectation. For generations, cosmologists believed gravity was king, that the mass of the universe would dictate its fate. Too much, and it would collapse back into itself. Too little, and it would drift forever. But when we measured the stars that exploded billions of years ago, when we traced their faint light across the depths of time, we saw something that defied both outcomes. The universe was not a story of balance, but of rupture. Repulsion, not attraction, ruled the future. This realization reshaped not only physics, but philosophy. For it meant that we live not in a cosmos bound for return, but in a cosmos bound for disappearance. The galaxies receding now are not merely moving away. They are crossing horizons beyond which they can never be seen again. The fabric of space itself carries them faster than light can chase. They do not simply move through space. They are carried by space into regions forever beyond our knowing. The universe is tearing its own map apart, page by page. Think of what this means for the night sky. The constellations we know are temporary. In billions of years, they will stretch, twist, dissolve into shapes unrecognizable. And in trillions, only the faint glow of our local cluster will remain. The universe will darken not suddenly, but gradually, like embers cooling after a fire. Darkness will not fall as a curtain, but as a slow forgetting. The stars will vanish, and silence will reign. And yet, this silence is not emptiness. It is the work of dark energy, the expansion of the very stage on which existence unfolds. Space itself is swelling, carrying galaxies into exile. This is not merely motion, but creation. New space coming into being with every second. More room for existence, more room for separation. Dark energy is not a background. It is the author of distance, the sculptor of time. But what is it? Here lies the riddle. We call it dark energy because we do not know. It may be the cosmological constant Einstein once scribbled into his equations, and a fixed pressure of the vacuum itself. Or it may be something stranger, a field that evolves, changes, perhaps even dies. Some call this possibility quintessence, a shadow energy that waxes and wanes, shaping the tempo of cosmic expansion. Others imagine phantom energy, a force that grows stronger with time, tearing not only galaxies apart, but atoms themselves. Each possibility carries a different fate. If dark energy is constant, then the universe will accelerate forever, galaxies vanishing one by one into horizons of silence. If it is dynamic, it may someday weaken, allowing gravity to reassert itself, perhaps even pulling the cosmos back into collapse. Or it may grow stronger, leading to the nightmare of the Big Rip, where every galaxy, every star, every atom is torn apart by expansion itself. In one vision, eternity. In another, annihilation. Dark energy is less an answer than a question, written across the future of time. We live then in a universe suspended between destinies, and though the final outcome lies trillions of years beyond our lifetimes, its presence shapes us now. For to know that existence is impermanent is to live differently. To know that the stars are temporary is to look at them with greater awe. To know that the universe itself will fade is to cherish the fleeting moment when it burns with light. And here, dark energy becomes not only a scientific mystery, but a philosophical teacher. It tells us that clinging is futile, that everything we know is temporary, that even galaxies must pass. It does not whisper despair, but humility. The truth that nothing lasts, and that beauty lies in impermanence. The Milky Way rushing toward Shapley is not a contradiction to this. It is part of the tension. Attraction gathers, expansion dissolves. Existence itself is the dance between the two. Consider how fragile our knowledge truly is. The discovery of dark energy came from the faintest signals, the dim light of supernovae billions of years gone. These exploding stars served as cosmic mile markers, their brightness telling us their distance, their redshift telling us their speed. When the data was gathered, it painted a picture no one expected: acceleration. The universe was not slowing under gravity's hand. It was flying apart faster and faster. The faint light of dying stars revealed the future of everything. From that moment onward, cosmology changed. The universe was no longer a question of whether it would collapse or expand forever. It was a question of how acceleration would unfold. The future was no longer one of symmetry, but of asymptote, galaxies sliding forever away, like leaves carried on an ever-widening stream. What had seemed an eternal night sky became temporary, fragile, destined for erasure. This is not theory alone. The cosmic microwave background bears the imprint of dark energy in the spacing of its peaks. The large-scale clustering of galaxies echoes its presence. Observations of baryon acoustic oscillations, the fossil sound waves of the early universe, confirm its hand. Every line of evidence points to the same truth. We live in a universe ruled not only by attraction, but by repulsion. Not only by gathering, but by scattering. Not only by dark matter, but by dark energy. The names themselves are inadequate. Dark matter, dark energy, labels of ignorance. We call them dark not because they are sinister, but because they are unknown. They remind us that even now, at the dawn of the 21st century, most of the universe eludes us. 95% of reality carries names that confess our blindness. And yet, in that confession lies honesty. To admit what we do not know is to honor the immensity of mystery. And what of the human spirit in this cosmos of dispersal? If gravity is the metaphor of belonging, dark energy is the metaphor of solitude. Gravity binds us to families, to communities, to planets, to stars. Dark energy drives us apart, scattering us across the abyss. We live between these forces, the yearning for union, the inevitability of separation. Just as galaxies cling together while the wider universe stretches away, so too do we cling to one another against the tide of time. Dark energy is not distant. It is the cosmic expression of loneliness and release. Imagine the far future, when the last galaxies slip beyond the cosmic horizon. There will be no new light from beyond, no new constellations rising. Civilizations, if they endure, will live in cosmic islands, cut off from the wider web. To them, the universe will seem small, finite, empty. The evidence of cosmic history will vanish. The cosmic microwave background will fade into silence, and the story we tell now, that of expansion, of dark energy, will be forever hidden. The universe will forget its own origin. And yet, perhaps this forgetting is not tragedy. Perhaps it is part of the rhythm of being. Just as individuals die, just as cultures fade, so too does the cosmos erase its own memory. Impermanence is not flaw, it is law, and dark energy is the enforcer of that law. There is also the haunting possibility that dark energy may not be constant. If it evolves, if it grows stronger, then the fate of the universe is darker still. In the Big Rip scenario, acceleration increases without bound. Galaxies are torn from clusters. Stars are torn from galaxies. Planets are torn from stars. Atoms themselves are ripped apart by expansion. Space does not merely grow, it shreds. This is the most violent vision of the future, a universe not fading, but screaming into dissolution. But even here, there is awe. For to contemplate such an end is to confront the scale of what existence can be. Our lives are brief sparks. Our fears, our desires, our triumphs, all unfold in a tiny window. Yet the universe itself plays out dramas so vast they dwarf imagination. To think of galaxies shredded by the expansion of space is to glimpse the sublime terror of reality itself. And so, dark energy is not only a scientific fact, it is a meditation. It forces us to confront impermanence not as possibility, but as certainty. It tells us that the universe is not a place of eternal structures, but a flow of creation and dissolution, that nothing, not even galaxies, can resist or change. It whispers that to exist is to be temporary, and to be temporary is to be beautiful. There is a strange poetry in the duel between dark matter and dark energy. One pulls, the other pushes. One gathers, the other scatters. One builds, the other dissolves. And we, fragile creatures of starlight, exist only in the fleeting balance between them. If dark matter had been weaker, no galaxies would have formed. If dark energy had been stronger, they would have scattered before stars could ignite. Our existence rests on a knife edge of tension between two invisible forces, each vast, each indifferent, each essential. To think of this balance is to see life itself reflected in the cosmos. For do we not also live between gravity and dispersal, between belonging and solitude? We are bound by love, by family, by community, yet time and change scatter us. We gather, we part, we cling, we release. The cosmos writes our own stories in grander ink. Dark matter and dark energy are not distant abstractions. They are mirrors of our condition. Some philosophers have asked whether dark energy represents not only a physical truth, but a metaphysical one. That existence itself may be expansion. That being is always becoming, always dispersing into more. If so, then dark energy is not alien to us. It is the principle of change itself, written into space-time. It is why nothing lasts. It is why everything moves. It is why the universe is not still, but always unfolding. And perhaps this is why dark energy unsettles us so deeply. It denies permanence. It denies the comfort of stability. It denies the dream of eternity. Even the Great Attractor, even Shapley, even the vast skeleton of dark matter, all of it is temporary. All of it will fade beneath the tide of expansion. To realize this is to feel both terror and liberation. Terror because nothing we build will last. Liberation because nothing we fear will last either. Dark energy is not only erasure, it is freedom, yet mystery remains. We do not know what dark energy is. We may never know. Our equations describe its effect, but not its essence. We give it names: cosmological constant, quintessence, phantom field, but these are shadows, placeholders for ignorance. Perhaps one day, a deeper theory will emerge, revealing the source of this cosmic breath. Or perhaps dark energy will remain forever veiled, an eternal reminder that the universe cannot be fully known. Imagine again the far future, when the stars of the Milky Way have burned out, when only black holes remain, when even those black holes evaporate into silence. In that final epoch, dark energy will still be there, stretching space, carrying what remains into greater emptiness. Even when matter itself has dissolved into radiation, expansion will continue. Dark energy is not bound to stars or galaxies. It is bound to existence itself. It is the last force standing, the breath that does not end. And so, the story of the universe is not one of stillness, but of departure. Not one of permanence, but of impermanence. We are living in the age of light, but the age of light is fleeting. Ahead lies the age of darkness, the age of silence, the age of dispersal. This is not cause for despair. It is cause for reverence. For to live now, in the brief window when galaxies shine and the night sky blazes with stars, is to live in a rare moment of cosmic beauty. To see the universe in its luminous youth is a gift beyond measure. Dark energy is thus not only a scientific discovery, it is a call to awareness. It tells us, look now, while the stars still burn. Look now, while the galaxies still shine. Look now, while the universe is still alive with light. For this moment will not come again. We are children of impermanence, but in impermanence lies meaning. Beauty is not in what lasts, it is in what fades. And so, as the Milky Way rushes toward Shapley, as dark matter binds us into webs, as gravity pulls, we must never forget the counterpoint. That dark energy waits, patient, inexorable, dissolving everything we know. The river flows toward gathering, but the tide ensures dispersal. The cosmos is both embrace and release. And we, caught between them, are the fleeting sparks in which the universe becomes aware of its own impermanence. If the Great Attractor is a river bend, and Shapley an ocean, then Laniakea is the continent that holds them both. It is the grand map into which our galaxy is woven, the immeasurable heaven that defines our place in the cosmic web. The name, given by astronomers in 2014, comes from Hawaiian, Lani, meaning heaven, and Akea, meaning spacious or immeasurable. Together, it is the immeasurable heaven. And in this name lies not only science, but poetry. For to describe our supercluster is to admit that we cannot measure it, only marvel at it. Laniakea is not a cluster of stars, nor even a cluster of galaxies. It is a cluster of clusters, a continent of matter stretching over 500 million light-years. Within its borders lie 100,000 galaxies, rivers of light flowing together into a common basin of gravity. The Milky Way is only one thread in this tapestry, one spark among thousands, carried along currents we cannot resist. And to say that we belong to Laniakea is to say that our destiny is part of something we cannot contain, something so vast it dissolves language itself. It was Brent Tully and his colleagues who mapped this immeasurable heaven. They traced the flow of galaxies, the paths along which they drifted. They asked not where galaxies were, but where they were going. And in this shift of question lay revelation. For galaxies are not scattered randomly. They flow like rivers, each one a drop carried into larger streams. And when all the streams were mapped, they converged into a basin, a gravitational watershed. That basin, that continent of currents, was named Laniakea. To see the map of Laniakea is to see the cosmic web come alive. Filaments stretch like veins, clusters glow like organs, rivers of galaxies flow like blood. It is the body of the universe, and we are cells within it. Our local supercluster, once thought to be the Virgo supercluster, dissolves into this larger whole. Virgo is no longer our continent. Laniakea is. And Shapley, vast as it is, becomes a summit within this immeasurable heaven, a peak in a mountain range without end. The scale of Laniakea is beyond comprehension. Its diameter spans over 500 million light-years, a distance so immense that light, traveling at 300,000 kilometers per second, would take 500 million years to cross it. Within this span are not thousands, but hundreds of thousands of galaxies. Each galaxy holds billions of stars. Each star, potentially, planets. And within some of those planets, life. To speak of Laniakea is to speak of billions upon billions of worlds, most of which will remain forever unseen. What unites these galaxies is not proximity, but motion. They are not bound in a static structure, but in a flow. Every galaxy within Laniakea moves as though drawn toward the same distant basin. The boundaries of the supercluster are not walls, but watersheds. On one side, galaxies stream toward Shapley. On another, they stream elsewhere. To define Laniakea is to define the region of space where the flows converge, the continent of gravity that shapes their paths. It is not a wall, but a destiny. This way of seeing, the mapping of motion, not position, is revolutionary. For centuries, we mapped the sky like cartographers of land, marking what was where. But Laniakea forces us to think differently. Galaxies are not dots on a page. They are droplets in rivers, tributaries in a greater stream. Their meaning lies not in where they are frozen in an instant, but in where they are going. And where we are going, together, is toward Shapley, the great summit of our immeasurable heaven. To belong to Laniakea is to realize that our home is not merely the Milky Way, nor even our local group of galaxies. It is not Virgo, nor any smaller cluster. It is this vast, flowing continent, this basin of currents. The Hawaiian name is fitting, for it evokes not conquest, but reverence. Laniakea is not ours to master. It is ours to belong to. It is the heaven too vast to measure, and yet it is our address, written into the coordinates of the cosmos. And here the philosophy deepens. For what does it mean to belong to something immeasurable? It means to surrender the illusion of scale. We are not central. We are not sovereign. We are tributaries in a river we did not choose, carried toward a sea we cannot see. To map Laniakea is to glimpse the geometry of fate itself, currents larger than choice, paths deeper than desire. It is to see the Milky Way not as an island, but as a drop of water in an immeasurable tide. The discovery of Laniakea did more than redraw maps. It redrew meaning. For centuries, we defined our home by smaller and smaller circles. Earth, the solar system, the Milky Way, the Virgo supercluster. Each seemed vast until it dissolved into something larger. Each felt central until it was revealed as provincial. And with Laniakea, the process continues. Even Virgo, once thought to be our continent, is no more than a province within this immeasurable heaven. Every time we expand the map, we diminish ourselves further. But perhaps diminution is not loss. Perhaps it is revelation. To know that we belong to something larger is not to erase our meaning, but to deepen it. To belong to Laniakea is to belong to a river of 100,000 galaxies, to a continent of matter 500 million light-years across, to a flow that began with the Big Bang and continues still. Our galaxy is a participant in a migration older than life itself, a journey written into the fabric of the cosmos. When we trace these flows, when we watch the rivers of galaxies converge, we are seeing not just matter in motion, but time itself unfolding. For every flow is history. Every current began in the density ripples of the early universe, in the sound waves frozen into the cosmic microwave background. To watch galaxies drift toward Shapley is to watch the echo of the Big Bang ripple outward still. The motion of the Milky Way is not random. It is the continuation of the first breath of the cosmos. And here, the philosophical echoes deepen further. For what is life, if not a flow? We too are carried by currents we did not choose, the current of time, the current of mortality, the current of change. We imagine ourselves as islands, but we are rivers. We are motion. To belong to Laniakea is to see ourselves mirrored in the galaxies, not static, not separate, but part of a greater migration. The map of Laniakea also forces us to confront another truth. Boundaries are illusions. Just as nations draw lines on Earth, astronomers once drew lines around clusters and superclusters. But the cosmos does not honor lines. It honors flows. Galaxies do not ask where one supercluster ends and another begins. They move according to gravity, according to currents invisible to the eye, but undeniable to motion. The universe is not divided. It is continuous. The boundaries we draw are conveniences, not truths. And perhaps this, too, is a lesson. For we draw boundaries in our lives, between self and other, between nations and cultures, between past and present. Yet beneath them all, there is flow. We are carried by currents larger than our divisions. To see Laniakea is to see continuity, to see that belonging is not limited by borders, but expanded by motion. The very name, Laniakea, the immeasurable heaven, invites humility. It reminds us that our maps, our words, our categories are inadequate, that to name something immeasurable is to confess both wonder and ignorance, and in that confession, there is beauty. For it means that the cosmos is always larger than our comprehension, always deeper than our description. To live in Laniakea is to live in reverence before the immeasurable. Imagine standing on a cliff overlooking an ocean. You see waves breaking, currents converging, tides pulling outward. You know that what you see is only the surface of something vast, something immeasurable. That is what it is to look at Laniakea. The galaxies are the waves, the clusters the currents, the superclusters the tides. What lies beneath is gravity itself, the invisible ocean carrying everything. And we are standing, fragile, on a cliff of knowledge, gazing into a sea without shore. The scale of this ocean overwhelms language. 500 million light-years across, 100,000 galaxies, countless stars, countless worlds. Numbers dissolve into metaphor. For what can numbers do against such immensity? To describe Laniakea is to admit defeat, and in that defeat, awe. It is to say, this is the immeasurable heaven. This is beyond us, and yet it is us. For within this immeasurable continent, the Milky Way is carried like a leaf on a current. We are not stationary, we are not sovereign, we are adrift. Our galaxy, our stars, our world. All of it moves, inexorably, along the rivers of Laniakea. The Great Attractor, Shapley. All the structures we have named are not endpoints, but eddies in a greater tide. The true reality is flow. The true map is migration. The discovery of Laniakea came not from sight alone, but from listening to motion. Astronomers measured the peculiar velocities of galaxies, the deviations from the smooth Hubble expansion. They listened to the whispers of drift, the murmurs of flow. And when they drew the lines of motion, they converged into basins, watersheds of gravity. The galaxies spoke their belonging not by where they were, but by where they were going. And in their going, we saw the shape of the immeasurable. This idea that belonging is revealed not by presence, but by destiny, is profound. For we too reveal ourselves not by where we are, but by where we are going. Our choices, our motions, our flows define us more than our positions. To live is to move. To belong is to be carried. Laniakea is not only a cosmic map, it is a mirror of life itself. Yet even Laniakea may not be final. For just as Virgo dissolved into Laniakea, so too may Laniakea dissolve into something larger still. The cosmic web has no true edges. It continues, filaments stretching into greater structures. Perhaps Laniakea itself is only a tributary in a larger current, a province in a greater continent, an immeasurable heaven within an even greater immeasurable. The scale may never end. The flows may never stop. The belonging may never resolve. And what then does it mean to be human in such a cosmos? It means to accept smallness without despair. It means to see ourselves as threads in a tapestry too vast to picture, and to find meaning not in dominance, but in participation. We are not the authors of the universe. We are the syllables in its song. To live in Laniakea is to live in harmony with something immeasurable, something we cannot command, something we can only join. And here, awe shades into terror. For to belong to Laniakea is also to be powerless before it. We cannot change its currents. We cannot escape its flows. We are carried, willing or not, toward Shapley, toward the unseen futures beyond. Our destinies are written in rivers of galaxies, in flows of gravity, in structures larger than imagination. To realize this is to feel a shiver of surrender, a recognition of helplessness before the scale of being. Yet, within that surrender lies freedom. For if we cannot control the tide, we can at least marvel at its beauty. If we cannot halt the current, we can at least live deeply within it. To know Laniakea is to know that life is not about control, but about wonder. Not about mastery, but about reverence. Not about permanence, but about impermanence. The immeasurable heaven does not ask us to rule it. It asks us to witness it. And so, we stand in our small galaxy, gazing into the immeasurable. We map the flows. We trace the rivers. We give it a name that confesses its grandeur and our ignorance. Laniakea, the heaven too vast to measure, the continent of currents, the cathedral of gravity, our home, our prison, our destiny. We belong to it. We are carried by it. We are part of its immeasurable tide. Even Laniakea, vast and immeasurable as it is, may not be the final chapter of our cosmic belonging. For when we map its rivers of galaxies, when we trace their flows toward Shapley and beyond, we begin to sense something unsettling. Laniakea itself may be only a province in a still larger empire of gravity. What we call immeasurable may itself be measured by something greater. What we call heaven may itself be only a chamber in a vaster cathedral. Beyond Laniakea, there may lie flows and structures we cannot name and may never see. This is where we confront the most haunting limit of all, the horizon of the observable universe. 46 billion light-years in every direction, a sphere of sight beyond which we cannot see. Not because there is nothing there, but because light has not had time to reach us. The universe is larger than we can observe, perhaps infinitely larger. Laniakea, vast though it is a mere speck inside this horizon. And beyond it, who can say? The rivers of galaxies may continue without end. The currents may carve structures beyond imagination. Here the imagination falters. For how do we picture what we cannot in principle ever see? The observable universe is not the universe. It is only the portion available to us, the part whose light has had time to arrive. Beyond that horizon, reality continues, indifferent to our blindness. To contemplate this is to feel the terror of finitude. We are enclosed not by walls, but by time itself. We are bounded not by matter, but by light's delay. Our prison is perception, and beyond it lies an abyss we can never touch. Imagine standing on a shore at night, watching the waves break. Beyond the horizon, the ocean continues, but you cannot see it. That is our condition in the universe. The cosmic horizon is the shoreline of sight. We look outward with our greatest telescopes, and beyond a certain distance, light itself fails us. Not because nothing exists, but because time has not allowed it to arrive. The universe hides itself not behind walls, but behind ages. And so we ask, what lies beyond Laniakea? Perhaps other superclusters, other immeasurable heavens, other basins of flow. Perhaps structures larger still, rivers merging into oceans beyond imagining. Some theorists even suggest that the entire observable universe is itself only a bubble, one pocket among countless others in an eternal inflationary multiverse. If this is so, then Laniakea is not even a continent. It is a grain of sand in an infinite shore. Yet even without invoking other universes, the limits humble us, for our own horizon is temporary. As dark energy accelerates expansion, galaxies will one by one slip beyond our reach. The observable universe will shrink in content, even as it expands in size. The night sky itself will betray us, hiding the truth of cosmic immensity. To live now is to live in the rare moment when the sky still tells the story of the universe. To live later will be to live in forgetfulness. The tragedy and the beauty of this realization is that we may never know. The cosmic horizon is not a frontier we can cross. No telescope, no matter how powerful, can bring us light from beyond it. The expansion of the universe ensures that much of reality is permanently beyond reach. We are like prisoners in a room without windows, able only to infer the larger house by the echoes of sound against the walls. We suspect immensity, but we cannot see it. And so, the unknown becomes the permanent companion of existence. Consider the cosmic microwave background, the oldest light we can see. It is not the edge of the universe, but the edge of sight. A veil, glowing faintly with the afterglow of the Big Bang, stretched across the sky like a dim and ancient tapestry. Beyond it lies a time when the universe was opaque, when matter and radiation were locked together. And beyond that, silence. The Big Bang itself hides behind this veil, inaccessible to our instruments. We reconstruct it with mathematics, but we cannot see it. Our horizon is not the true beginning. It is only the faintest echo. This limit is not only physical, it is philosophical. It tells us that knowledge itself has a horizon, that no matter how far we reach, there will always be a beyond. That mystery is not a temporary state of ignorance, but a permanent feature of reality. We are not climbing toward completion. We are wandering in an infinite landscape where every summit reveals new horizons. To live in such a universe is to accept humility as a permanent condition. And yet, in this humility, there is a strange exhilaration. For the horizon is not only a boundary, it is also a promise. It tells us that reality will never be exhausted, that there will always be more, that imagination will never run dry. The horizon is not emptiness, it is abundance disguised as absence. Perhaps the most haunting thought is this: even within our observable horizon, much of the structure remains unseen. Dark matter and dark energy dominate. Laniakea itself was hidden until we mapped the flows of galaxies. What else lies hidden, awaiting discovery? If so much mystery resides within the visible, how much greater is the mystery beyond? We are like children exploring a shoreline, marveling at shells and waves, never glimpsing the depths of the ocean. The cosmos hides more than it reveals. Think of the observable universe as a theater stage, lit for our eyes. Beyond the edge of the light, the stage continues, but the curtain hides it. We see the actors and the set before us, but not the machinery beyond, not the larger play in which our act is only a moment. Laniakea is a scene in this play, vast and luminous, yet still only a fragment. The curtain is not physical. It is woven of time. Beyond it, reality waits unseen. Some cosmologists believe that beyond our horizon lie other Laniakeas, larger and smaller, strung together in an endless cosmic web. Others suspect that what we call the observable universe is itself curved, perhaps even finite, looping back on itself. If so, then beyond the horizon we might eventually see our own galaxy from another angle, our own past light bent back toward us. The possibilities are infinite, the certainty none. This leads to the idea of the multiverse, that our universe may be one bubble among countless others, each with its own laws, its own structures, its own immeasurable heavens. If true, then the Great Attractor, Shapley, Laniakea, all of them are local peculiarities, ripples on the surface of a far greater ocean of being. To belong to one universe is all enough. To belong to a multiverse is to dissolve into mystery. For then, even our infinite sky is provincial. And yet, even if the multiverse is a speculation, its allure lies in what it represents: the refusal of finality. The cosmos resists endings. Every horizon hides another. Every beyond conceals a further beyond. This infinite regress is not despair. It is wonder stretched to breaking. It is the mind reaching into eternity. Here, philosophy meets physics. The horizon is not only the limit of sight, but the limit of certainty. Beyond it, we can never know directly. We can only infer, imagine, speculate. And yet, speculation is not meaningless. It is the mind reaching beyond its cage, straining toward the immeasurable. The unknown invites imagination, and imagination itself becomes a form of knowledge, a way of honoring what cannot be seen. Imagine for a moment standing within a valley surrounded by mountains, their peaks hidden in fog. You know the landscape continues, but you cannot see it. That is the position of humanity in the cosmos. We see the valley of the observable, but the mountains beyond remain veiled. The fog is time itself, the finite speed of light, the expansion of space. We are creatures of the valley, and yet our minds yearn for the peaks. This yearning has always been our nature. We name what we cannot reach. We speculate about what we cannot prove. We weave myths, theories, cosmologies. All are attempts to pierce the fog, and though none may reveal the full truth, they reveal something greater. the irrepressible hunger of consciousness. To live is to long for the unseen. And so, we speak of the cosmic horizon not as a failure, but as an invitation. It invites imagination, it invites humility, it invites reverence. For to stand on the edge of sight is to glimpse the truth of existence, that we are always on the shore of an infinite ocean. That knowledge is not a final destination, but a perpetual voyage. This has consequences for how we live. For just as galaxies are carried by flows they cannot resist, so are we carried by currents of time and mortality. The horizon of life is death, just as the horizon of sight is distance. Both are inevitable, both are limits, and yet, both conceal mystery. We fear what lies beyond, yet we cannot deny its existence. Perhaps that is the final symmetry, that the cosmic horizon mirrors the horizon of death. Both mark the limits of experience. Both conceal what lies beyond. Both remind us that existence is bounded and yet continuous. The galaxies do not end at the horizon. They continue unseen. So too, perhaps, does being. We cannot know. We can only wonder. And in this wonder lies our humanity. To ask what lies beyond is to affirm that we are more than survival. We are beings of imagination. We are creatures of the unknown. Our greatness does not lie in certainty, but in questioning. Not in answers, but in wonder. Think again of the Great Attractor, of Shapley, of Laniakea. Each time we thought we had reached the end of mystery, a larger horizon appeared. Each time we believed we had mapped our home, the map dissolved into something greater. Perhaps this is the deepest truth of the cosmos, that there is no final map, that every boundary is a beginning, that every horizon is a doorway. The universe is not a finished structure. It is an endless unfolding. This endlessness has consequences not only for science, but for spirit, for it tells us that meaning is not in reaching the end, but in the journey itself. That fulfillment is not in completion, but in seeking. That life, like the cosmos, is immeasurable because it is never finished. For when we gaze at the cosmic horizon, when we contemplate the unseen beyond, we are confronted with a paradox. We are infinitely small, yet infinitely connected. Small because we are one planet circling one star in one galaxy among billions. Connected because we belong to the flows that stretch beyond sight, beyond knowledge, perhaps beyond existence itself. To be small is to be free of illusion. To be connected is to be free of despair. The horizon takes away certainty, but it gives belonging. The galaxies that flow beyond our sight still carry us. The rivers of motion that stretch into darkness still include us. Laniakea may end in our maps, but it does not end in reality. We belong to what we cannot see. We are participants in the unseen. Imagine civilizations 1 trillion years from now, living in galaxies cut off from the wider web. For them, the cosmic horizon will be far closer. They will see no evidence of expansion, no trace of the microwave background, no hint of the great structures we now glimpse. Their universe will seem small, local, timeless. They will live in ignorance not by choice, but by condition, and they will never know what we now know, that they were part of a vast, immeasurable heaven now vanished beyond reach. We, then, live in a unique epoch, the age of revelation, the age when the sky still tells the story, the age when the immeasurable is still visible. We are witnesses to a truth that future beings will never see, that the universe is vast beyond imagination, immeasurable beyond words. To live now is to live in the dawn of understanding, before the sky grows silent. And so, Segment 9 is not conclusion, but threshold. Beyond Laniakea lies the immeasurable unknown. Beyond the horizon lies eternity. And we, brief sparks of awareness, are the witnesses of this moment, when the universe still reveals its scale, when the heavens are still visible, when the immeasurable still shines. To live now is to live in the age of revelation, to see what later generations cannot, to glimpse the immeasurable heaven before it slips away forever. What lies beyond Laniakea? We may never know. But in the asking, we discover what it means to be human, to wonder, to imagine, to reach beyond the horizon with thought, if not with sight. We have followed the Milky Way on its invisible journey, traced the current of galaxies as they fall toward an unseen hand, peered into the depths of Shapley, uncovered the hidden skeleton of dark matter, felt the dissolving breath of dark energy, and found ourselves, at last, within the immeasurable heaven of Laniakea. And still beyond all of this, we met the horizon of the unknown, a limit we cannot cross, a veil of light and time that conceals the rest. Now, at the end of this voyage, what remains is not answers, but reflection. The Great Attractor, once thought to be the destination of our fall, was only the first whisper of something larger. Shapley, unimaginably vast, was still not enough. Laniakea redefined our belonging, stretching our address across 500 million light-years. And even that, immense though it seems, dissolved into the larger truth, that everything we see is only a fraction, a surface, a thin film of light floating on an ocean of dark matter and dark energy. We live in a cosmos ruled not by what we know, but by what we cannot see. And what then does it mean to live in such a cosmos? It means that certainty is a dream, and wonder is the law, that permanence is illusion, and impermanence the foundation, that our galaxy, our planet, our lives, are not isolated stories, but currents in a river whose source we cannot see, and whose mouth we cannot reach. To be human is to drift within these currents, to awaken for a moment to their immensity, and to vanish again into the immeasurable. Consider where we began, with a simple question. Why is the Milky Way moving? Why does our galaxy drift at hundreds of kilometers per second, pulled by a force we cannot see? That question led us to the Great Attractor, a gravitational anomaly that seemed to tug at our stars. But as we drew closer, we found that it was not enough. The attractor was only a bend in the river. The true current led onward, toward Shapley, the great summit of galaxies. There, in a continent of light 650 million light-years away, we thought we might find the source. But still, the current continued, and yet Shapley, vast as it is, was still not the end. For Shapley is part of something larger, Laniakea, the immeasurable heaven, a supercluster whose flows revealed the true basin of our belonging. Laniakea told us that our home is not a galaxy, not a cluster, not even a supercluster as we once imagined. It is this basin of currents, this continent of motion, this heaven too vast to measure. And still, beyond it, the horizon waits, mocking every definition. Beyond Laniakea lies the immeasurable unknown. To follow this journey is to undergo a transformation. At first, we sought answers. What is pulling us? Where are we going? But by the end, the answers dissolve into larger questions. What is reality? What is permanence? What does it mean to exist in a universe that cannot be contained? A universe where every map dissolves into something larger, where every horizon hides another. To trace the Milky Way's motion is to trace the human condition itself. Curiosity leading into wonder, wonder leading into humility. The cosmos has always humbled us, stripping away illusions of centrality. Once, we thought Earth was the center. Then we learned it was only a planet circling a star. Then that our star was one among hundreds of billions in the Milky Way. Then that our galaxy was one among billions more. Each discovery displaced us further, but each also gave us a deeper belonging. For to be small is not to be nothing. To be small is to be part of something vast. We are not the rulers of the cosmos. We are its witnesses. Dark matter taught us that the visible is not the whole. Dark energy taught us that even the grandest structures are temporary. Laniakea taught us that our belonging is larger than we imagined, and the cosmic horizon taught us that mystery is eternal. These are not only scientific truths, they are spiritual lessons. They tell us that to live is to live in the immeasurable. That knowledge is not closure, but invitation. That wonder is not the enemy of truth, but its companion. What then do we do with this knowledge? We live differently. We look at the stars and we know they will not always be there. We look at galaxies and we know they are temporary arrangements of light. We look at ourselves and we know we are brief sparks in a greater fire. And yet, in this brevity lies beauty, for impermanence gives meaning to every moment. To exist for a moment in the immeasurable is enough. To witness it, to ask about it, to wonder at it. That is our role. Think of the paradox we now face. We are vanishingly small, and yet, in us, the universe contemplates itself. The Milky Way drifts toward Shapley. Galaxies collapse into clusters. Dark energy tears them apart again. And within all of this, we emerge, fragile beings who ask why. Our significance does not lie in scale. It lies in awareness. For no star knows it burns. No galaxy knows it moves, but we do. The cosmos is vast beyond comprehension, and yet, in us, it gains a voice. Perhaps that is the deepest mystery of all. That consciousness arose, fleeting and fragile, within a universe that will one day erase every trace of it. Awareness is temporary, but while it lasts, it is the universe awakened. In us, the immeasurable looks at itself. In us, the cosmos knows wonder. In us, silence learns to speak. And yet, awareness carries with it both awe and dread. Awe because we glimpse the immensity. Dread because we glimpse our fragility. The forces that bind and dissolve galaxies will one day erase every trace of us. And yet, does this make us meaningless? Or does it give us the greatest meaning of all, that we exist at all, against impossible odds, in a universe where light and darkness dance on a scale beyond imagination? To be here, now, conscious, in the fleeting age when galaxies still blaze, that is no small thing. It is everything. Imagine the far future. Trillions of years from now, the stars will be gone. Galaxies will have slipped beyond one another's reach. The night sky will be black, save for the fading glow of dying embers. Civilizations, if they endure, will live under skies empty of history. They will not know the Great Attractor, nor Shapley, nor Laniakea. They will not know the cosmic web, nor the expansion, nor the true scale of being. For them, the immeasurable will have collapsed into the local. The age of revelation will be over. We, then, are privileged. We live in the dawn of awareness when the universe still tells its story in the sky. To witness Laniakea. To know dark matter and dark energy. To glimpse the horizon. This is our gift, fleeting though it is. And the proper response is not despair, but reverence. For to live in the immeasurable heaven, to be carried by unseen currents, to know even for a moment the vastness of our belonging, that is enough. Consider again the duality of the universe, the pull of dark matter, the push of dark energy. Between these two forces, everything exists. Without one, galaxies would never form. Without the other, galaxies would never dissolve. Creation and destruction are not opposites, but partners. The universe is not a story of stability. It is a story of balance, always shifting, always unfolding. And we are caught within that story as fragile sparks of consciousness. To live is to be pulled by belonging and pushed by impermanence. To love is to gather and to lose. To exist is to appear and to vanish. We are not separate from the cosmos. We are its reflection. Our lives echo the very structure of the universe: attraction and dispersal, union and parting, birth and death. To see this is to find meaning not in eternity, but in transience, not in permanence, but in presence. And perhaps that is the final lesson of the immeasurable heaven. That meaning is not found in what lasts forever, but in what burns briefly with intensity. That beauty is not in permanence, but in impermanence. That the silence of the cosmos is not emptiness, but fullness beyond comprehension. Look once more at the night sky. Every star you see is part of the Milky Way, a galaxy itself drifting toward a destiny it cannot resist. Every smudge of light beyond the stars is another galaxy, another island of billions of suns, each moving along invisible rivers carved by gravity. All of them together form clusters, filaments, superclusters, woven into Laniakea, the immeasurable heaven. And all of them are vanishing, carried outward by dark energy toward horizons they will never cross again. The sky is both revelation and farewell. This is the paradox. The more we learn, the more we realize how little we can ever know. Every answer opens a deeper abyss. Every map reveals larger lands. Every horizon conceals another. Knowledge is not completion. Knowledge is endless unveiling. The cosmos is not a puzzle to solve. It is a mystery to live. And in that mystery lies our deepest belonging. For if the universe were small, if it were simple, if it were finite, our wonder would have an end. But because it is immeasurable, because it is unfathomable, because it is infinite in scale and depth, our wonder is eternal. We will never reach the end of the mystery. We will never exhaust the immeasurable. We have traced the Milky Way's drift, but in doing so, we have traced our own. We, too, are carried by currents we cannot control, of time, of mortality, of change. We, too, are subject to forces unseen, forces of love and loss, forces of memory and forgetting. Our lives, like galaxies, are rivers that flow into larger seas. To know this is to know that we are not separate from the universe. We are expressions of its very fabric. And so, what remains is to live with awareness, to live as though every moment matters, because it does, to live as though every glance at the sky is sacred, because it is, to live as though every act of wonder is enough, because it is. We are brief sparks in the immeasurable, but in our brevity lies the whole meaning of light. The final reflection is not an answer, but a posture. It is to stand in awe before the immeasurable. It is to gaze at the night sky and know that it will fade. It is to love and know that love will be lost. It is to live and know that life will end. And yet, to live, to love, to wonder, even briefly, within the immeasurable, that is enough. The Great Attractor will fade. Shapley will dissolve. Laniakea will scatter. Even the horizon of the observable will one day contract into forgetfulness. All things will vanish, and silence will remain. But that silence is not emptiness. Silence is presence without words. Silence is fullness beyond comprehension. Silence is the immeasurable itself. And so, the final truth is silence. The silence of the immeasurable. The silence that holds the Great Attractor, Shapley, Laniakea, the horizon, and us. The silence in which the cosmos drifts, the silence in which we live, the silence in which we die. To stand before that silence and to accept it is the final act of reverence. This is the end of our journey. The Milky Way drifts onward, the galaxies flow, the immeasurable waits, and we, for a moment, are here to see it.